Hi guys, and welcome to Take 3 Reactors Summit. This week we're going to be going over the week in the Schmoedown. We're also going to be looking at next week, which includes our speculation for the free-for-all. This is going to be a lot of fun, and I'm assuming it's going to be a longer episode, so I legitimately have nothing else to say at the beginning. It's a rare case when I have nothing else to say. So we're just going to go right into it. Hi guys, and thanks for joining us. We've got a lot to go through, and we have an excellent panel to discuss everything that happened on the week in the Schmoedown. And we have a weird thing where we're splitting up the matches because not everyone at the time of recording has seen Friday's matches, and so you'll see maybe a couple people drop off the panel, maybe a couple people join the panel. I don't know how that's gonna work, but we'll get there. But to talk about the Tuesday match, we have Matt Kearns. How's it going, Matt?
It's great. But this was a fun match that I'm sure we'll get into. Back to the Future, something. I don't know.
Yeah, some sort of...
I'm just upset. Tuesday. Don't remind me.
Sorry. Well, perhaps Malcolm is less upset than you. Are you less upset?
Yeah, I'm less upset. Like, I'm excited to be here to talk Schmoedown, so yeah.
Man of few words. Jen Kempe. How's it going, Jen?
Great Scott, this is going to be an interesting show. Yeah, so I'm excited to be back 2 weeks in a row that I was able to be on Summit, so for whatever I'm here to talk about, totally excited.
Also 2 weeks in a row on the Summit, we have Jeremy Hastings. How's it going?
Going pretty good. Hi, guys. You brought me back. I'm shocked. Next.
Well, it was a weird scheduling thing where we had no one for the Summit, and then all of a sudden everyone could be here. So you're just a happy accident now. But we're glad you're here.
Like me?
You're a happy accident. This is a good night. So this is why we don't record these on Fridays. All right, and also joining us for the first time on the Summit, but you might have seen him on our reaction to the Above the Line Modoc match. We have Chris Alexakos. How's it going?
It's going well. It's a pleasure to be here again, and both games were pretty good, so I will have a good time discussing them.
Awesome, and we're gonna get right into that Tuesday team match. And this match was really exciting, and I think for the most part lived up to its hype. Obviously, Above the Line did do very well in this match, as they continue to do very well in all of their matches. And they're very quickly becoming like the dominant team. If you look at their stats, they're just so impressive. And I can't foresee them losing again to the Patriots. But we'll get there. We'll get there eventually. And Modoc also did fairly well. Not as well as I think that they could have, but still a pretty good performance from them. So let's talk about this match, and let's get into it. So Jeremy, what did you think about this match?
I thought the match was good. I think you kind of hinted at it. I was a little underwhelmed by how Modoc played, especially with Matt Atchity. It seems like since, the new format of questions has happened, it seems like his movie knowledge has kind of gotten a little bit more exposed, which I didn't think was possible about a couple months ago. But Gray did about as well as she usually does. In Drew McWeeny, another perfect round one. I mean, it's almost more of a surprise when he doesn't get all the questions right. And they just continue to keep on rolling. So it's going to be very interesting to see that next match with the Patriots. And as you have pointed out, you think that they could potentially win. I'm kind of leaning that way myself. So that will be a very interesting match when that match happens.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's hard to doubt the Patriots, just given the fact that they've won so many matches. But when you're looking at like the accuracy rating and everything for Above the Line, they're just kind of a scary team. It must be the beards. I think that's where all the magic comes in. You know who else has a beard? Malcolm. What did you think about this match?
You know, it was a good match. I mean, it was kind of what I expected, and I mean, I saw Above the Line pulling off the win myself, like, and just nothing surprising really happened. It was just pretty straightforward. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would say MODOK's performance was maybe a little surprising, but overall, I think it did go down the way I predicted it, maybe just a little less close. But Jen, what did you think about this? And are you nervous at all about the Lions Den having to take on the Patriots in this upcoming title match?
Look, congratulations to Above the Line. You are definitely the #1 contender as it stands right now. They deserve to get their shot, second shot here. Patriots, though, you can't beat the momentum that they have. But no, in this match, it's basically Drew McWeeny. I think he's getting a little tired of seeing Sam with a belt and him not having one, because he came out and he had a phenomenal performance. Basically, round 1 was theirs for the taking, and they just kept it going throughout the entire match. We had another unfortunate Patreon slice on the wheel for Team MODOK. So I think, who was it? The person. But thanks to them, once it rolled classics, I was basically throwing my hands in the air of Above the Line's going to get this. Because even though MODOK didn't really struggle too badly in classics, that's one that definitely Above the Line can get some steals in on. So yeah, I was a little underwhelmed with MODOK's performance. But when it comes to Flair, they're one of my favorites when they came out Back to the Future with Doc Brown and Marty. That was another phenomenal performance. They really like bringing out characters and committing to them the entire time. But yeah, they just had some trouble. Gray struggled a little bit in round 1, and Matt, for some reason, just can't remember when he's allowed multiple choice answers. I don't know what it is. He doesn't get a lot of singles matches, but when he comes back, he always seems to forget the rules a little bit. So it's neither here or there. But yeah, this was a strong match, good performance from Above the Line, and I look forward to seeing them against the Patriots, but it's going to be close, but I don't think you can stop the juggernaut that is Snyder and JTE.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's hard to doubt them at this point, given how many times they've won. But I would like to see that belt change hands at some point in my lifetime. Chris, you were on the reaction with us, but we got some of your take then. But give us your thoughts on this match and how you felt about it.
Well, what I really like about MODOK, and the Above the Line were really good and they deserve the win. But what I really like about MODOK, and this is what people forget sometimes about them, is that I think they capture the essence of the Schmoedown, which is good knowledge accompanied with a very good entrance and some character work, which of course changes throughout the eras and the games. But we should never underestimate them as far as knowledge goes, but also the entertainment value. Now, for Above the Line, of course, Drew McWeeny is as scary as always. And Sam was pretty good in this game. He wasn't as good as Drew, of course, but I don't think that's his role in the team anymore. He's more of a supporting player, tending to the needs of Drew whenever he has a gap in his knowledge. But I think that overall, Above the Line are going to be a legitimate contender for the title, and I think it's time that the title is going to change hands. I don't doubt the Patriots anymore, but if they win against Above the Line a second time, then they should probably retire as best of all time.
That's not a bad idea. Retiring while you're on top, I think, is kind of nice. But I personally would like it to be maybe a little bit more storyline driven, where they lose and then get pissed off at each other and then they battle each other head on head. Like, I think that would be a really good storyline if they just were like, oh, I hate you now, and then they do a one-on-one battle at a live event, and then all the Lions Den is thrown into chaos more than it already is. And that's my dream for this whole thing. And it'll probably never happen because they'll never lose the belt, and I'll just be sitting here crying in the corner for the rest of my life. Matt Kearns, what were your thoughts on this match? Will you be crying in a corner for the rest of your life?
Come on. Since, like, when did the team semifinals happen? I've been crying in my corner of Schmoedown since then. Yep, since September. Listen, I think something we're not bringing up is this shows what happens to a team when you haven't played since before the team tournament last season. MODOK has not played in I don't know how long. And you kind of just... I mean, yeah, Gray and Matt, they do work in the movie sphere, but when you're not... Maybe not every week, but, you know, every couple of weeks having to prepare for matches and stuff, and you lose 8 months, thank you. 8 months without having to prepare for a match, without being in the area, without playing the game, I think you get rust. We've seen that. We saw that with Mark Ellis last season when he came back from his retirement. We saw how that affected him. It just happens sometimes. But given all that, I think MODOK played a pretty well game against a very difficult team. And if you have to give MODOK credit, the Buffalo Line is a great team, and for them to, did they have a bad match? But you know what? They had a difficult round too, and I don't know. Above the Line was certainly on top form in this match, and it's definitely going to be interesting to see them play the Patriots, because I think, the Patriots, everyone likes to always say, oh, I can't wait to see them lose. I can't wait to see them lose, but literally every time we've said that, they still win. And that's not something to underestimate. And you can say that it's luck, but, I mean, the Schmoedown is luck-based. And for whatever reason, I don't know what the Patriots did to get this luck, but it doesn't seem like it's running out soon. And I like Drew and Sam. I think they definitely have a chance to beat Jeff and JT, but I think when you have two guys who are very well trained in championship battles and in speed rounds and in all that, you also have, I mean, let's be honest, Tom Dagnino, to be a guy to do the work of having to get into your opponent's heads for you so you can just focus on the match is not something to overlook. And Tom is a guy who I think he could definitely get under Sam and Drew's skin if he really, works for it. And, and we've seen the Schmoedown many times when you're more focused on the person screaming things and annoying you on the sidelines, you don't always focus on the game. Not saying that will happen, but who knows? Stranger things have happened with Schmoedown. That was a
Stranger
really long
Things. That was really good diatribe you had there. But Stranger Things is a great television show, and it's also a really great way to describe how the Lions Den keeps winning. It's just they defy all odds and they just win. They're really good at winning. So there's that. There was another thing that happened during this match, and it was this little intro bit with Rachel and Clark talking, and Clark just making sure that Rachel doesn't want to use her, Emma's, contender spot for the Shirewolves. And I thought that was interesting to include. I don't know if they shot that last minute to tag on because there was some talk on the page about whether it was fair or not fair, or if they're just really, really good at predicting that people will have questions about everything. Either way, someone's either Nostradamus or someone's just really good at last minute, promos. But what did everyone think about this? Does it make sense to you to keep it with Clark and not go the Shirewolves route, or what do you think? So, Matt, since we were with you, we'll just go right back to you.
Sorry, just give me a second because I'm just reading this thing. Listen, I think I think Emma made the right choice. I love Mark and Draco, and you could definitely, give him Innergeekdom. I wouldn't because he hasn't played Innergeekdom, or you could give him the singles, but Shire Wolves, I agree with what Rachel said. I think the Shire Wolves, they can definitely work their way to the titles. And also the fact that they've only played one match. If they're able to work their way to the titles and not take this #1 contenders match, that's better for them than going from their first match to a #1 contenders match. They're able to feel each other out. They're able to figure out, okay, I know this category very well. You don't. So in round 3, if we hear this category, you should give it to me. And that's not to say Clark can't work her way to the belt. She's Clark Wolf, for crying out loud. However, she's also someone who is seasoned. And if you can sort of allow her to bypass the work and go straight to the #1 contenders match, why not? And I would just really love to see Clark, be in the #1 contenders match. I know Harloff, I forget where it came out, but she's choosing from the top 10 competitors. That's who she's choosing. So she can choose number 10. She could choose number 5. It's going to be interesting to see who she ends up picking, from that list to be in the #1 contenders match. But as long as it's not one of my favorites, which, by the way, Schmoedown Twitter account, I saw you tweet on April Fool's Day, and I forgot it was April Fool's Day. So, that happened. But, so yeah, as long as we don't get a situation like that, I'm going to be Team Wolf all the way to take Sam Levine's belt. And I like Sam, but I like Clark Wolf more, and she should have the belt.
All right. Well, I'm glad that you have so many thoughts about.
I'm sorry,
Clark
guys.
Wolf.
This is what happens when we record on a Friday night.
Matt just likes Clark because she's a part of his favorite, no longer a team.
That's a lie. I liked Clark when she first started competing. When she beat Finstock, I went, this competitor, she's going places.
Oh.
Well, I'm glad that you feel that way. Malcolm, what are your thoughts about this intro, and why do you think they added it in? Was it needed? And do you think you agree with it?
I don't think it was necessarily needed, but I think they probably did it to address the everything that's happening on the page. But in saying that, like, in a way, it makes sense that Clark has it because, like, Rachel only just had her #1 contenders match earlier in the year, and so I mean, she needs time to rest and sort of get her head together after that. But yeah, so I mean, and like Shire Wolves can easily work their way up, and Draco hasn't really had a lot of matches in the Schmoedown, and I mean, like, I think, if I remember rightly, he is in the top 10, but I mean, Clark's probably not going to pick him anyway. So, but I mean, Clark with the #1 contender shot, it makes sense.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think that this, when you think about all of the individual pieces moving together, this makes the most sense out of everything. Yeah, but so Jeremy, what did you think about this promo? And just give us your overall thoughts on that.
It was pretty much what I expected it to be. And I said from the start, I have no issue with Clark getting picked for the #1 contendership. It's what I thought she should do with it is the thing that I've always been, vouching and, saying what is common sense and logical to do. As we found out in a later match, the route that they decided to go. I'll get into that later, but yeah, it was a straightforward promo. It was, nothing terrible. Just laid the point out that they think that they can get the team titles on their own, which I absolutely agree with. And it's going to be interesting to see who she will pick, as we found out.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how this all pans out, how this decision takes effect, and also how the individual players in the Fife Club actually get their chance to move forward, especially Draco, because I want to see more matches from him. More, as in any matches from him. So, Chris, what were your thoughts about this promo scene?
So, first of all, I don't know if everyone watched the game, the Friday's game. I think you mentioned up top that most of us didn't, or I happened to watch it until the end, and it's revealed who is the adversary for Clark Wolf. I'm not going to spoil it, obviously, for the people that haven't watched it yet, but we know who the person is. So, as far as the decision goes, I think that Emma had a difficult decision to make. The first one, the first person that should have, I think she should have picked was Rachel, but since Rachel just had her chance against Sam, and of course that didn't happen, I think she made the correct decision to go with Clark. I disagree with what you said previously, that Clark could have made her way to the finals either way. I don't think that's the case. Clark is a good player, but she's wildly inconsistent, and I don't think she could have navigated her way to the finals. So, in my opinion, that was a good pick for Emma, because she wants to give one of her players a chance to reach the belts, and I think the Shirewolves would have done it either way. I agree with what everyone else said. But I think it was a wise pick, and I think that Clark Wolf, she has the power to make it and win the title, but I don't think that she could have withstood the grind to get there on her own. So it was a good choice.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. And getting to that title shot is a lot of the time really tedious, because you really do. You have to slog through just a lot of matches. And if you're not already up there, like, we get into, and we'll talk about this, a lot of the top tier teams are having like repeated chances at that title because, they're the top tier. And so that's how it just keeps happening, is top 10 keeps going up for the belt, above the line keeps going up for the belts. And you see the same people competing all the time and getting into that top contender spot. And for someone who, hasn't been playing as often, that's not necessarily the most welcoming thing to see, or it doesn't give you a lot of hope that you'll make it in to that. But it, I'm glad that she's getting this, because I think that she really deserves it after the year she debuted in, and also everything she's done in teams in last year. I think she really deserves it, and she should have had it. Sorry, Matt. She should have had it last year instead of Riley, in my opinion, but that's okay. Matt's going to quit tape. Bye, Matt. Jen, what were your thoughts about this promo and how everything is playing out?
Yeah, so I think this was an excellent decision for them to put in this promo, because there was a little level of controversy, as we saw in the MTS Facebook group and sure in the YouTube comments. I didn't read the YouTube comments because you shouldn't read the YouTube comments.
Yeah.
But if you're not part of the group and you only just watch on YouTube or whatever, you wouldn't see how each member of Fife Club came out and addressed it in their own way. So if you just watch the videos and that's it, you probably would still have some kind of outrage of, oh, it should have been Draco, it should have been Cushing. So I personally, I said it last week and I'll say it again, any pick in the Fife Club would be a good pick. I personally would have gone for an Innergeekdom Cushing just because she was so close last time against Jeremy Johns. But I understand this is part of Rachel's decision. She's had a long slog through the tournaments here, and she deserves a break. If she feels like she needs to take a step back and compose herself, totally fine with me. Anything to get the Crusher on her feet again is a good decision. And I absolutely agree that the Shirewolves, they're going to get there on their own. It's just a matter of time. And with just one match under the belt, it's not time yet. But yeah, I would have gone for an Innergeekdom pick just because there's so many new people coming in. It's hard to get a slot at this point if you've already played. So it's just more of time constraints. And I just want Andreyko to get a match. For the love of my fantasy points, just give him a regular match. I don't need a contender match, just a match. Yeah, but so I understand that he doesn't really deserve it at this point. But Clark, she has been a trailblazer throughout the Schmoedown. She deserves this shot. And all power to her. It's going to be really interesting to see how it turns out. So, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree and disagree. I do want Rachel to have another shot at Innergeekdom, but I also know her mindset in not wanting to take the contender spot, in that she knows she can make it again to that final. Like, she knows she can do it. And that's kind of the same thing she's thinking in her singles as well. Like, she knows she can get there. And so why take that away from someone who is going to have a harder time getting there, even though they also could do it? You know, it's a selfless thing that everyone is doing to help Clark get that contender spot and get, I mean, she definitely deserves it. She really does, because she's worked very hard, you know, the 2 years she's been in here in teams and singles to just be excellent, and she doesn't get as much credit as she's due just because she doesn't play as often as some of these other players do. But I definitely want to see Rachel get that Innergeekdom shot. So if we could get some like non-newbie matches going again, so that like Rachel could play and own
Mike.
everyone. Sure, and Mike, I guess. But mainly Rachel. No, we like Mike. He's fine. But
Thanks, Kristen. Love being here.
No, I want to see other people who, you know, Robert Meyer Burnett can go back in Innergeekdom. We can get another Jay Washington appearance. Like, there's a lot of people who don't play as often, who, you know, they play very well in Innergeekdom, and I'd like to see them have a few more matches. So if we could get a couple of those going, that'd be great. We are going to discuss something that was said a little bit earlier, in that how the #1 contender matches keep coming up with pretty much the same teams, especially for teams. Not so much for singles. It's been a little bit more diverse, but for teams, we've had a lot of the same teams coming up over and over again. You've got Top 10, you've got Schmoedown has had a couple chances recently. Also, you've had Above the Line have, you know, the previous one after Spectacular, and now this. And so it's one of those things where you kind of want to get some fresh meat in there. And I don't think that you should be penalizing teams because they're good. You know, the teams are getting their shots at the title because they're worthy of it. But there has to be a way to try and, you know, bring some of these newer teams up a little bit faster, so that we can get some more diversity in that, you know, top tier group. Because right now the top tier group is 3 or 4 teams, and there are so many teams in the Schmoedown that could do very well if they got that opportunity. So I just want to ask if there's any ways that anyone can think of to maybe try and get, you know, the title contender matches to maybe be a little bit more diverse. If there's any, you know, behind the scenes things, or, you know, just any things on your mind, or who you would like to see get that title shot. I think that, you know, there's a lot of room for growth that we could see right now. So, Jeremy, what are your thoughts? And if you have anyone in mind, that'd be great.
I think the main thing that just needs to be done is they need to have a combination of the newer teams playing, you know, the veteran teams. I think that's the best way to do it. Obviously, they're going to do that with World's Finest and Trek next week. But it's not like they haven't tried to get some new teams into the contenders match. I mean, they tried to do that with Team Action in the finals, but they lost to Above the Line. They tried to do that with Top That. They lost to Top 10. A lot of people thought that was going to be Top That's, you know, crowning moment, but they didn't get the job done. So they've tried to get some new teams in there, but it's just that the veteran teams have ended up getting the one-ups on them. There's not really much else that they can do in terms of just putting a new team in there. I mean, I would love to have seen atop that critically acclaimed get a shot, but they have to work their way up, and the only way they can really do that is by challenging more of these veteran teams. But right now they've just had the veteran team against the veteran team and another veteran team against another veteran team, and the rookie teams are playing themselves. So until they start getting more diverse, having combinations of the young teams against the new teams, it's going to pretty much be what it is right now.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you. I think that it's very difficult to get those rookie teams to have a good enough record to do that kind of thing. But there's ways that they can supplement that and try and make it so that the same teams aren't going up for that contender spot every other month. But Malcolm, did you have any thoughts about this?
Well, I mean, like they've already sort of done that top 10 and came up the like they can't. Well, Patriots are champions; they can't get a title shot. So I mean, their top 10 is already sort of out of the title pitch for now anyway. But I mean, there's not a lot that I can think about that would help. Because I mean, Shrivel's probably going to get up there after a while, and top that, I could actually see getting back into the title picture. But I mean, I don't know if there's a lot they can do, because I mean, unless they break the rankings so that the new team gets a double contendership, like that's something that they won't do. But yeah, Jeremy's idea of having getting a bit like Euro teams play veterans probably the best way to do.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, is trying to mix things up a little bit more so that you do get a good mixture of seeing the veterans play and the rookies play, because I would like to see that. I like to see the veterans get to play more. Like Team Trek is a great team. I want to see them play more. The fact that I get to have them and a newer team play in the same match is incredibly exciting for me. Chris, I think you had something that you wanted to say about this.
So I would like to say that I have a little bit of a hot take on that matter. In my opinion, that might be an issue, and that might be an issue that we see a lot of teams recycling themselves in the top tier. But in my opinion, that's more unfair to the older teams than to the newer teams. And I'll explain. For example, we have some teams like above the line, we have some teams like top 10 that they always face higher tier opponents. So that creates that doesn't boost their ranking, that doesn't boost their win total. Instead of slugging with the bottom teams of the league, where they could have easily defeated them and got a couple of more wins, they have to go against higher tier opponents all the time. And that, for example, leads to top 10 having 8 versus 8 wins, 4 defeats I think at this point 9-4 or something like that, which wouldn't happen if they didn't have to face stronger opponents all the time. While the newer teams have to face newer teams, which it's a lack of the draw. Some of them might be easier than the others. But I agree with Jeremy that a lot of the older teams should go in and face younger teams. So there is always the chance of the upset, but also the older teams get a fair chance to boost their win totals, which I think is something that we haven't seen happen neither on the single leagues or the team leagues, except for the Patriots, which continue winning, and they're going to continue winning unless someone actually manages to take them down. But that's my opinion. That I think that we might complain about the older teams and the higher tier teams, but they also get the worst possible matchups most of the time.
That's true. And the other issue is a lot of the people who used to be high tier teams are no longer in the league. So you have this weird thing where we had a really good 6-team pack going that was kind of like your high level teams. And it was like Wolves of Steel and Nerds Watch was kind of getting in there, and you had a few of those teams. Yeah, and I would put DC Movie News in there as well, and their status is completely up to question at this point. Like, who the heck knows what's going on with DC Movie News? But you had a lot of teams that were very active, that were all in there, and so you got a lot more diversity in those matches. And now it feels like it's just like 3 really good teams playing all the time, 3 or 4, and then newbie matches. And so we need to build up that middle pack really, really well this season, so that when we get to a big tournament, we actually care about the teams that are in it. Jen, did you have any thoughts about this?
Yeah, it's basically a catch-22 situation, because in order for the Schmoedown to grow, you want to see new talent coming in, new teams coming up the ranks, but at the same time, the top tier teams are there because they perform well, whether it's trivia-wise or just personas. It's people love to tune in to those matches. So we've seen like JTE or Roka, we've seen them a couple times already in this season, and it's because they do well in terms of promoting and playing. So when it comes to a new teams, like, it's a real gutsy move to say, yeah, I think I can go up against top 10 in my very first match. Like, it's already nerve-wracking just to go in as a debut player in the Schmoedown, but to go up against what is considered one of the best teams, it's like a double whammy. So yeah, I do agree that we should be mixing it up a little bit more. I'm glad to see the match coming up, Team Trek versus World's Finest. We haven't seen Trek in a long time, so I'm excited to see them come back, and I think they have a really good shot of coming back up the ranks. And World's Finest had a great debut, so who knows? Like, I'd love to see teams like Late to the Party, or I'll stand in for Chris Clark here, critically acclaimed, deserves a few shots at getting a little bit better. So it's yeah, it's a little hard, because you want to see as many people as possible, but you want to make sure that everyone's getting a fair shake when it comes to rankings. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of drifted off there, and I don't know where I was going.
It all made sense to me. Matt, did you have any comments about this?
Yeah. Listen, I think this all comes down to we had this same problem in singles in the 2017 early on, where people said they were tired of seeing the singles belt go between Roka, Riley, Merle. They were tired of seeing that, and now we're getting that with teams, because, like we said, we said that a lot of the teams that were top tier or near to being in top tier broke up, and so now coming into the season, we have this sort of the middle area between sort of low tier new teams and top tier is sort of non-existent. I think the way you do that is, let's get some of the lower tier newer matches. Let's just get them, the established ones, and I know marketing and I understand that, but who knew who the Patriots were before they played Mega Powers? Who knew who Nerds Watch were before their first match? So let's try to give them matches with, you have a team that's 1-0, give them a match against critically acclaimed, give them a match against someone, let's just do that. And then we can hopefully get that middle area back. And also, what else would help Tad? Is maybe you don't take the best team out just because he was trying to hug his father. Okay? Maybe that would help this whole team.
Whoa.
Are you trying to say that Team Action is a top tier team? Because they have a terrible accuracy rating.
You're right. They're not top tier. They're the tier. The bar. They are the bar. Okay? Come on. Where's the freaking belt?
No one knows where the belts are.
Top 10 guy, don't give me this belt thing, okay?
I don't know. The last time that we fought, it wasn't pretty for you, so I don't know.
Well, I'm glad that.
Can I add one more thing in here? I remembered where I was going, and I forgot where I went.
I'm sorry.
The more
I love how it's like Jen's like,
go ahead, Jen.
Matt and Chris were fighting about top 10 in action. Remember my actual thought about the Schmoedown?
I remembered where I was going. Look, this is me. It's been a long day, and I lost my train of thought, but I remember where I got back on track. Okay, so basically the problem is logistically you can only have so many matches. So like so far the Patreon matches have all been singles, if we could somehow start getting more and more Patreon matches, getting one per day, per week, or not per day, but I mean like one on each Schmoedown day. That would, it's just a matter of getting more matches, because there are so many new teams. You want to see as many players as possible. Everyone has different favorites. You want to see them all do well and compete. But it's scheduling. It's also scheduling in terms of professionalism. Like a lot of these teams aren't even in the state. So it's a lot of things that logistically need to be worked out. And at this point, for me, I think the only way of doing it is getting more matches.
Yeah, and I get that. I would love to see a Patreon match be a team match. And we don't need more than one as many times as we're getting it. But I think that it would be nice to have that, or maybe even do like a one-on-one Innergeekdom match, because we haven't seen any of those really outside of the contender matches. But it'd be a good way to give that extra match a little bit more meaning as well, because I think so far the extra matches have played a really important part of bringing in singles people who don't typically get those matches. Like RB3, he has only played singles once, and giving him the chance to have a new match is really important. But it's hard to get someone who's only had one match and it's been a loss on the schedule. So I do like the chances that Patreon can give people. And so maybe some of these teams with, 0-1 or 0-2 can show up there. That'd be awesome. No.
Oh.
No. What's your thought, Matt?
My thought is, so we saw last season in the tournament, that's where we saw Above the Line came in. That's, they had never played before, and they were able to work their way to the belts. Maybe, and I'm not sure how you do this, maybe you have a smaller tournament sort of near the beginning of the season, and then by the end of the season, we have the much bigger, bracket tournament. Maybe that's a way to sort of, because we saw last season that we had teams that had never played in this tournament, and we got Above the Line. So maybe that's a way to get newer teams. I'm not sure how you do that. Again,
Can I add something on that? If that's okay. So my main concern about the trend that we're going through right now is that Christian, I'm assuming it's Christian that creates the teams, is trying to create super teams, and that's something that I find a little bit disconcerting. Mostly because, in my opinion, the teams should grow, should have an organic chemistry, and should be able to grow organically through playing games and through getting to know each other. For example, a good example was Above the Line, right? Above the Line was a bet that really paid off, but it was clearly a super team. You pair McQueenie and Sam Levine, which even before he was a champion, he was a respected player.
Yeah.
For example, another bet that didn't pay off was critically acclaimed, right? Now another bet is the Direwolf. So I don't like the trend of putting people together that they haven't grown together through matches just to make a sudden impact, because I get what Christian is doing. Sometimes people are complaining that some of the teams, they don't have the greatest debut, the first matches, and he wants to have a team that has a big impact right away. But that trend concerns me a little bit for the future and for the longevity of the tournament and for the team league.
Yeah, and the only one I would fight you on is critically acclaimed, because they work together, and Bibbs have been podcasting together for many, many years, and so their teaming up was highly natural. And while they are a super team, despite the fact that they don't have a great record,
knowledge-wise at least,
Sorry, Clark. Numbers-wise, they aren't. They aren't up there yet. But they haven't had that many matches either, and but their team, I feel, is more natural. And even the Direwolves, I think it feels like a natural pairing. Maybe just because I wanted it so much. But
probably.
To your point, it's sometimes when you. But
the Wolves of Steel too. Right?
The other team that was an unnatural pairing was JTE and Snyder, and you see how that paid off because they hardly knew each other before they were teaming up, and then all of a sudden they teamed up.
Yeah, but they had a chance to grow organically through the tournament, right? They weren't made to like have a sudden impact that's gonna, rock the world of the league tournament. Like, the Shirewolves are made to do that. The Wolves of Steel were made to do that. The above the line, I'm assuming, considering the clout of the people that are joining these teams. No one believed in JTE and Snyder in the beginning. No one believes in them now. They have 10 wins.
Jen's right here.
How dare you?
Chris. Come on, man.
My husband believes in them too. That's something else. So my only other thoughts on this, because I do agree, just getting some of the more veteran teams and teams that have had 1 or 2 wins under their belt together to play a match is really the best way to get some more mix going on. Another thing that they could do is, that if the same teams keep going up for contendership, and believe me, I don't want to take away the opportunity for top 10 to get a belt again, but if they keep coming up for contendership, maybe put in a stipulation. After you've lost a contender match twice, you have to build your way back up. You have to win 2 matches in a row. And they've done that for singles for certain people, and I think that it's fair to try and do that, because then they can build within the league as well, and that gives more opportunity to broaden out who's getting those contender spots, but also who's facing those top tier teams, because otherwise you literally will never get you'll never get another one of those top 10 versus some random middle of the pack team, because at this point they're only facing the Patriots and above the line in Action, and those are all people that are closer to the top, although Action's debatable. Sorry, Andrew.
What's this?
Andrew and
I just
Ben
had the sheet sitting next to me. Anytime you say Action,
Andrew and Ben understand that I have a love-hate relationship with their team, but that's. I kind of thought that this was a good conversation to have, just because there are so many teams in this tournament that we hardly get to see, and I love all of them. I mean, when is Brienne and Mike's random thing gonna happen?
I don't know.
What's going on? But there are a ton of teams we really haven't seen play, and I want to see them play more. I want to see more of the Team Treks. I want to see Team Heroes come back. I want to see all of these people play, and the only way to do that is to start breaking this up a little bit.
Navarro and Schnepp were Team Heroes. I totally forgot that until you said that.
Navarro.
Wow, Navarro.
Whether or not that team, actually does well is a completely different thing. But I like them because they're funny and they make me smile. So,
and this is, I think this is also just an interesting thing this season that we've been seeing with newbies, which I love. I love that we're getting a lot of newbies, and this goes back to, I forget how many summits ago it was, but when we were talking about Innergeekdom, and we're talking, I think it was before the second Fatal 5 was announced. We were talking about who was going to be in it. It's great that we're introducing newbies, but when you have teams that are sitting 1-0, 0-1, and they're not getting matches because you're introducing newbies, it's this give and take. It's like, if we introduce newbies and we're giving newbies these matches, then we're not giving the 1-0 and the 0-1 teams matches. So it's difficult, and I give it up to Harloff and Ellis and Thad and all the people who come with scheduling, but it is this thing where maybe we've had newbies month, we've introduced a lot of new teams, let's give the 0-1 teams matches, play against another 0-1 team, let them try to build their way up, I mean, Wolves of Steel, let's not forget, and believe me, I don't forget, they started off 0-1, and they worked their way up to title. They worked their way up to a title match. So let's not forget about those poor 0-1 teams.
yeah, let's not forget about them, or the 0-2 teams, or the 1-1 teams. Like, there's a lot of teams that really just kind of pass into obscurity because they don't get as many matches, or people see them lose once and then they never play again. And some of those teams are really funny and could do well if they got another opportunity to do it. So let's get going on some of those new matches. I'm ready to go. We're going to talk about the Friday matches, but we're going to take a quick break by doing Matt's fantasy update.
Hey, yo, what's up, guys? It's Vinny here. I'm the new fantasy guy, because you know what? Matt's a little loser punk. So, first thing we're going to talk about is Take 3 standings, and my internet kind of sucks and the library was closed, so I couldn't use the free stuff. So I'm just going to assume that the Corgis, which I still don't know what a Corgi is in first place. I bet you Yodi Alliance is in last because, Jesus, it's Matt's team, for God's sake. So this is Vinny with your fantasy update, and I'm not leaving, so you can complain all you want.
Thanks, Vinny, for the update, kind of. I'm also assuming I'm winning because I'm still allowing the segment. So moving on to our Inner Geekdom match, and also the undercard match, which was the Patreon between Stacy Howard and RB3, who, after this discussion, there's actually going to be an interview with him, which is awesome because he's great. But we're going to get into this and talk about this Patreon match first. And I know some people, because it's a Patreon match, I think there's a stigma attached to them that they're not as good, or they're low scoring, or whatever. And that's fine, but they're giving a lot of people chances to compete that don't normally get to compete a lot. So I like them a lot. And I thought this match was pretty good until round 3. I thought it was highly competitive. And then once round 3 hit, it was just like, oh, poor RB3. Like, none of those movies were in his wheelhouse. And I'm sure Matt Kearns will hate so much that he didn't know who the coach was in Miracle. But it's cool. It's cool. RB3's still a great guy, and he's got a bright future in the Schmoedown after his round 1 in particular, which was fantastic. But we're going to shoot it on over to Malcolm to talk about this match. What did you think of this one?
Stacy Howard match. It was kind of how I expected it to go. Like, I didn't expect like 50-point wins totals and things like that. But I mean, it was expected. It was low scoring, and I mean, like, yeah, RB3 didn't do too well in that third round. But I mean, the movies are just not in his wheelhouse. So I mean, you don't know what you're going to get when you pick your numbers. But I mean, the backstage interviews and that, they were fun to watch. I mean, especially with the fact that you've got the first conversation between Brienne and Stacy since they broke up at Spectacular, and it's just one of those ones which really blew up. And like, yeah, Brienne standing there for a while, was like wondering if Stacy was actually going to show up for the interview, and then she did. So yeah, I mean, it's all that.
Yeah, I thought that having Brienne do the interviews was interesting, and it gave a little bit of chance for her to kind of increase her storyline. So I liked that bit, and I thought that it was actually funny interaction between her and the rest of the Viper squad. So that was pretty cool. Jeremy, what did you think about this?
The match I thought was really good. The opening round actually was very competitive, other than Renee Zellweger from RB3, which I saw a lot of people make a big deal about in the comment section of the match, which honestly I didn't think was that big of a deal, because everybody said, well, Stacy didn't officially challenge the match. I mean, to me, a player doesn't have to go, I challenged this ruling, for that to be an actual challenge, because let's say she did challenge. It took them 5 seconds to make a ruling. They wouldn't even had to have gone to a challenge in progress thing to make that ruling. So for people to say, well, you know, she didn't make an official challenge to me was irrelevant. It was she called it out. They all agreed that, you know, the spelling needed to be more closer to what, you know, he left out a very important letter in the name. It's kind of like the Chadwick Boseman like argument. And yeah, then in round 2, for people that might not know, I was the Patreon supporter for that match. I was the holiday movies guy, which came so close to getting holiday movies, and I was, you know, very disappointed that it didn't happen. But oh well. So yeah, ultimately, when round 3 happened, RB3 just couldn't get any of those questions right, which is unfortunate. He started out really good, and then as you know, the rounds continued on, he just kind of sputtered to an unfortunate TKO defeat. So real happy for Stacy. She's now 3-1, and going to be interesting to see where she goes going up the top 10 rankings. Maybe, you know, future match with Andraco and other possible top 10 contenders.
Yeah, definitely. I think that Stacy versus Andraco would actually be an interesting match. So that's a good thought. Chris, what did you think of this one, and did you have any thoughts about that issue in the first round?
So first of all, I would like to start by saying that I really like the entrances, specifically Stacy Howard with Jay and Janine, who challenged Emma 5 for in a match. That's going to be a fan match. I don't know which way that could possibly go, but we'll have enough time to speculate in the future about that. Now for the match itself in the first round, I think in general that the way that the challenge was handled, like, sets a bad precedent for the future. Like, I'm getting a little bit tired of this reliance on having the exactly correct spelling. I think it creates an issue with the spirit of the game, which is having the knowledge. Like, if we get hung up on like minutia, or did she challenge it the correct way? Did she had he written it like exactly the correct way? I think that creates issues in you know, for the future. And you know, that I was recently witnessed the whole respin situation, and that's also is a little bit heavy on my mind, writing down stuff a little bit. But I really liked how RB3 handled it, and the fact that in the second round, when he had the option to go for multiple choice on the Zorg question, he was like, I'm not going to risk any kind of misspelling on that front, and he went for the multiple choice, which landed with the correct answer. As a final result, RB3 has a lot of movie knowledge to fill out, and unfortunately, the Schmoedown is a little bit focused on 80s and 90s mostly when it comes to general questions, I think. So he was a little bit on a disadvantage there. But I really liked the game, and I really liked the ending and the ending interviews, the whole situation with Brienne and Jay and Stacy. But all in all, it was a solid match, and I hope that that creates a good trend for future matches for the Patreon supporters.
Yeah, you brought up that you know, the fact that it's basically them being consistent on their rulings with the spelling and everything. And I, you know what, at this point, I think they do need to start being more consistent. Like, if they're gonna sometimes call it wrong and sometimes call it right, they just need to always call it wrong, or just not care about the spelling as long as you know who it is, right? And like, if he had the W in there, I don't think there'd be any question about the spelling, like, because that's really what it was. Is he wrote Zellweger, which is very not much Zellweger.
Yeah, but if he had
the W in there, it would.
If he had a V there, would it be different? Like, this is the kind of stuff that I don't understand.
Yeah, like, and misspellings are one thing, but like he basically, like, Zellweger is an actual last name, but it's not her last name, and so it's one of those like heady things. Yeah. You know? So it's not so much just that it was misspelled; it's that it looked like a completely different name, and you know, that's it. It's a gray area what's spelled enough and what isn't. And so I think they just, if they're going to do it, they just need to be consistent about what they do in those situations. But I also don't think we need to nitpick about the fact that she didn't like officially challenge it. Like, I think that's just like, unless they're going to give people flags to throw out on the field to play, I don't think we need to be too worried about it being like, oh, an unofficial challenge. Like, if they had decided that it was okay, they would have been like, no, that's her challenge. She can't use another one. So it is what it is. But you know, it's an interesting conversation still. It's just, I don't know that we'll get the answers to these questions about the rules until maybe a couple more matches down the road, you know. But we do have one more person to talk about this match. Matt, what did you think about this one? I know you have at least one call to make on it.
Oh, yeah. Well, first thing, I really want them to start using flags because, like, think about how funny that'd be just halfway during a match. Someone sends a flag and they're like, oh, I got the flag. I can't. That could just be really funny. Okay, so here's the thing. First off, I really love the entrances in these match as a Disney Channel kid growing up. Stacy, that was a great entrance. RB3 had a great entrance. You know what? I like Stacy a lot, but I was supporting RB3. You know, because me and RB3 were the same age. So like when he's competing, I feel like I'm competing, or at least I say I felt, because that round 3 came. That first question came up. And you know what, RB3? This is my heart. You broke my heart, man. Denzel? I love Denzel. But you serious? Kurt Russell in arguably his greatest role? And you didn't know? Come on, man. What are you doing? What are you doing? And that wasn't an 80s or 90s movie. So we can't even do, okay, come on, RB3. I love you. But you got to study up on your Russell. If you want me to help, at Kearns_Matthew on Twitter. DM me. I'll watch a bunch of Kurt Russell movies with you. I'll study with you. But you broke my heart, man. You broke my heart in the same way Stacy broke my heart when she stopped cosplaying as Kurt Russell. Why is it the Schmoedown is breaking my heart and Kurt Russell is always involved? But overall, the match was pretty good, and I really loved the post-match interviews. I really loved how Brienne didn't know they were going, and she was just singing hello. I thought that was great. That didn't seem like that was like a rehearsed thing. It kind of just felt like it really happened. So, yeah. If I seem angry, guys, you obviously don't watch Ever Take 3 videos.
There you go. Obviously not. The thing is, he knows who was the coach of Miracle Now, because he said it during the interview that we had with him. So if it makes you feel any better, he has learned. But sports is definitely
I wasn't doing that
not
interview.
One of his strengths.
Imagine that.
Yes, we didn't do that on purpose. Plus, I like RB3. He's fun to talk to. But you know, sports is also not one of his strong suits. I believe he posted on Twitter, like, if it's not Remember the Titans or like 2 other movies, I'm not good at sports. So, you know, there's definite gaps, and he knows what the thing is. He knows what they are. Like, he knows, like, I need to study more sports movies. I need to study more 80s movies. So to me, moving forward, like, he has a pretty decent chance to do well, especially if he can get some more, because he's a film student. He studies more classic type films. He studies a lot of things that didn't come up at all in his match. Like, a lot of the directors that they focused on in the meeting of, like, none of those have been in the match at all. So if the next match he can get some more of those, like, classic films, modern classic films, like, I think he could do a very, very good job. And I think it could be interesting. There was also, in the post-match interview, RB3, well, Ace was there with RB3, and he mentioned, you know, not minding having a team. Like, it wasn't so much like, yes, we're going to be a team. It was just like, nah, teams would be cool. And then I think Ace was more excited about the potential of joining the Innergeekdom League. So I just want to get everyone's thoughts about that, what they think, you know, could come out of that, and expectations with those 2 kind of announcements. So Malcolm, what did you think about those?
I think Ace and RB3 as a team makes a lot of sense, because I mean, like, I've watched them both on the Meaning of podcast. They've got great chemistry together. It's like, and they both know their movies, and like they both, and they really. I mean, it's one of those team ups when, like, you may just not think about it, but when it actually gets brought up, and you start feeling like, oh, that would actually be a good team. I mean, I don't know if they're at the point where they could probably take down the Patriots, but they can definitely work their way up there. I mean, at this point, I don't know if anyone can take down the Patriots, but and Ace and Innergeekdom, I think he'll do really well in that. I mean, he's well rounded. I mean, I don't know if they've got anime in Innergeekdom, but I mean, other things is like he knows a lot of things. He's got
Yeah, they don't have anime in Innergeekdom, but it seems like it could be like a really seamless thing to add in because people are super nerdy about anime, and if they added it in, there'd be a few people who would really, it would change the dynamic of the pack the same way Back to the Future did, because there are players like Emma and Ace who are very, very knowledgeable about anime, and I think Jay Washington as well knows a lot about anime. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he does, but not a lot of other competitors do, and it's the same with that Back to the Future category. There are some competitors who have seen the movies like once, you know, and there's others who live and breathe those movies, so I think it could actually be kind of interesting to see, and I've been wanting it for, you know, since Innergeekdom came out, so I kind of hope that happens at some point, or at least give it its own category on the wheel, man. Like that is an untapped category. like so many questions could be coming out of that category. But moving on, Chris, what did you think about these kind of new announcements for the team in Innergeekdom?
For RB3, I disagree that he's a good match with Ace, because due to their age being so similar, I think that it's better if RB3 pairs up with someone like a little bit older that has lived through the 80s and 90s, maybe, that is a little bit more comedic and sports savant. Like, I would think that it would be a great fit with Makuga, for example. Like, had Makuga not have a teammate yet, because they would pair their strengths well. He would be really strong in the more classic set categories and more highbrow categories, maybe. And the other person would be stronger in the comedy section, 80s, 90s, sports movies. As far as the anime category in Innergeekdom, my main concern with that is that I don't know. It's what kind of what is considered to be an anime movie. And for example, Back to the Future, there are 3 movies, right, that you can delve into. Anime is like a huge library of movies. It's practically, you know, all Japanese type animation movies, right? Unless, you know, I'm mistaken. I'm not just very knowledgeable on the anime front, but I'm assuming there are like, what, 100 movies that you could go into there? That's like a
more,
yeah, like 100, 200, 500. Like,
it's
you cannot go.
It's been around for a while, so.
Yeah, obviously. So it's not easy to go into these kinds of specific categories. Like, you know, that it's not 6 movies, it's not 9 movies that you need to really know well. It's not even 20 movies that are 25 that Bond was. You know, it's a little bit more complicated, I think, for an Innergeekdom category to go into that, because it's like a whole new category, like dramas. You know, dramas where there are like thousands upon thousands of movies. But you know, other than that, I think RB3 deserves a team and a team partner, and I'm really excited to see how that's going to go.
Yeah, definitely. Matt, did you have any thoughts about this?
You know, Abe and RB3 being a team, it could be interesting. I think, like Chris said, you know, I don't really know what Ace's total, like, I don't know what, like, I know Innergeekdom he would do well in, and I would really love to see Ace go into Innergeekdom, but I'm not sure, because don't think he's ever competed in Schmoedown. No, he did. Okay, he competed in the Team Champs match in 2015, but that was a slaughter. No offense. But so maybe I don't know. As for anime in the inner geekdom, I think it could have its place just as much as, you know, Pixar has its place in regular Schmoedown. I think anime is definitely a very, like, it's a geeky category. It's inner geekdom. You know, but also I just think with inner geekdom, I think expanding this season, because we already see we're getting a lot of new players are going into inner geekdom, that I think adding newer categories like this would be a good thing, because I think, kind of like what Kristen was saying, it balances it out, because there are some people who anime is their thing. Like, they know anime like I know DC and Back to the Future and Star Wars and inner geekdom, they know anime. And so that could make these matches maybe a little bit closer. It can make them more intense, which at the end of the day, for as much as I love KOs, TKOs, I really like nail-biting matches that come down to that last 5-pointer. Adding anime to inner geekdom could be something that could do that and get us better, more tense matches.
Definitely.
Yeah, I've a thought as well. Like, as Chris was saying, he said like about anime being a broad category. Like, you could shorten that down and have a slice based on like just Studio Ghibli movies, because I mean, it's a lesser. So yeah, there's that.
Yeah, and that would be interesting too, because then you could focus on just the ones that were theatrically released in the United States. So that's a smaller segment. So you're looking at like your Howl's Moving Castles and your Spirited Aways, instead of, you know, the thousands of anime movies that are out there. Because there's a lot of history in anime, and like it's a lot to slog through if you aren't aware of it. But if it's a smaller segment or just a studio, then it's a lot easier to, you know, dig into it. Yeah. But I, you know, like I said, personally want it, but I think Ace could do really well in inner geekdom. Like, he knows his comic books. He has knowledge outside of the comic book arena in some of the other categories as well. And, you know, like you said in the interviews, like, he's seen them before and he does really well, you know, playing along. And while, you know, that doesn't always mean anything when you're not under the lights, I think that he's got that knowledge, and I think that he could definitely make an impact in that league. And I want to see him back in. As for teams, I think they'd be a good team. But I don't know, just the fact that they're both new, and maybe not new because RB3 is in a second match, but RB3 is at this point has only had one match in the past like 6 months. You know, like he doesn't have a lot under his belt. He doesn't have a lot of experience. And then you throw the team component in there where Ace doesn't have a lot of that experience either. And both of them have had bad experiences with the teams themselves, with the last team that RB3 was in, Team Wangers, going like 0-3 pretty much right off the bat. You know, it's a lot of things to think about and work through. So it'd be cool to see them get their individual selves, you know, embraced and settled in before they went into teams. But I think they could do some damage in teams, just given their knowledge of some of these categories. But that brings us to the cut scene. So there was a scene before the match, which was Mark Donica talking to Emma Fyffe. And it kind of leads right into the match conversation, because this was basically her inviting Donica to be a part of the Fyffe Club, and him kind of saying, I'll think about it. And then you see him walk out in his intro with the Lion's Den, and you're like, what is this? Like, that was real quick. He didn't think about it that hard. So that was a big deal, because now the Lion's Den has a really good inner geekdom player, and it's, you know, that's something that they've been missing since they lost Dan Draco. But it'll just be interesting to see how that all shakes out, but that'll lead us into the match discussion for Donica and Havon. Before I get to that, I did forget Jeremy's thoughts on the last match. So you get the honors of talking about both matches at once. So feel free to give your thoughts about all of it. Sorry.
Yeah, they can make a great team. The end. Okay, so moving on. As far as the Donica interview, that was it was interesting, especially considering we kind of heard the murmurs that he'd already kind of joined the Lion's Den. I guess they just didn't make it official. I guess we all just kind of assumed that it had happened. And yeah, all the comments that came from Jason Inman. I don't know if anybody heard about what those were, but he was not very pleased about the fact that Emma apparently went to Donica and not him. So that's a little bit more frustration, a little bit more disrespect from the champion, not getting the respect he deserves, which frankly I don't blame him. If I was Inman watching a guy like Donica, who he had a decent showing in his first match, but Inman has just had more success in just based on consistency. I mean, he's had a lot of great matches. Obviously, he's now the champion, and I think the fact that he's gotten shunned by pretty much every faction, every single manager of those factions, I would, have a little sour grapes towards a lot of those people in the Innergeekdom division.
Yeah, the Twitter feuds between Inman and Donica have been going since after his initial match, and they've been really funny. So it's I'm looking forward to that matchup. Although I honestly still don't think anyone's going to touch Inman's belt for a while. But let's get over to Malcolm and see what he thinks about this match and everything that happened in it.
Yeah, so I mean, everything that happened in this match was fun. I mean, I think both the round twos didn't go the way they wanted with the questions. They both really struggled in round two. There was definitely a few questions that that Jared got that I think he should have known, but yeah, I mean, and that, as for Emma going to talk to Donica, it's one of those ones which, I mean, I don't have anything against the idea, but I mean, but saying that, she's already got Andraco, who's a really good Innergeekdom player in itself. So I mean, why she wants a second is a little bit confusing. As it turned out for the match, that didn't happen anyway because he joined up with a despicable team of lions in a den. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones like Mark ended up pulling off the win, and I mean, and yes, and it's what, and I mean, I loved when Donica came out for Lions, and everyone was just so excited, so confused, and spent a long time, questioning him about it and all that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. It's interesting that Emma is going after another person for the Innergeekdom because she herself is also a decent Innergeekdom player. And so having Rachel, who is also an amazing Innergeekdom player, plus herself and Andraco all in one league, it's like they're just trying to get an Innergeekdom league with people. But they might need to just broaden out a little bit more. Oh, and she also has Sam Whitwer, who is basically like champ of a section of the Innergeekdom League, and I think he could probably make it in the regular Innergeekdom League. I don't know about his comic book knowledge, but his Star Trek knowledge is on point as well. So, Chris, did you have any thoughts about this match?
Yes, I think that this match was a decent one, but I don't think any of these two competitors could take the belt away from Inman. They both have very distinct weaknesses in their game, and not that Inman is like amazing or anything, but you know, I don't think that people are getting into Innergeekdom as seriously as they should. I mean, it's what, 100 movies in total, like 110 or something like that. They should, if they wanted to make a big impact on the Innergeekdom, they should know nearly everything about those movies. The fact that Donica could not, you know, name half of the questions she had in the Star Wars category. They didn't know Nimbus 2000, Jared, I think. They didn't know who blew the horn at the Battle of Helm's Deep. Like, that's basic movie knowledge that I know, and I'm not even close to be able to compete in an Innergeekdom. So I think that they're not ready yet. They have to study a little bit more, and I think Inman is going to be safe for now. But again, I think the Innergeekdom field in general needs to improve in order for it to be more competitive.
Yeah, and I had the opportunity of talking to Jared after the match because I was there for that one, and he knew the answer to that Lord of the Rings question. He was confusing it with the third movie in a scene, and it's sometimes like when he basically was just like, I know what that is. I'm so mad at myself, and it was just one of those things where he was in the moment. He got the question kind of mixed around in his head and was thinking of a completely different movie, and then was like, there's only like one person running up a tower in the third movie, so even then it was Merry and not Pippin running up a tower. But then he thought that they were technically talking about him lighting the beacon and not blowing the horn. So
that was Pippin, though, right?
Yeah, in the one movie, in the third one, he was that. But there was a scene where Merry runs up a little guard tower thing as well. But it's like, I understand why he was confused, just because, you know, you get that pressure and you get under the lights. And I think him having the category that he had in the second round really threw him off, because he did not want that category. He should have stuck with villains. It was a spin that did not pay off for him. And I understand his reasoning behind that as well. Villains could be anything. Legitimately, it could be anything. And that's a scary thing, because it could be 4 questions from Star Trek and he'd be in the same mess as he was before. But if he had gotten, his round 2 on a better spin, I think this match could have been a lot more impressive than it ended up being. Jeremy, we didn't actually get your thoughts about the match, so if you want to let us know what you thought about the match itself, that'd be great.
Yeah, I was not impressed with either of them. And if I'm Jason Inman, I am not intimidated at all with Mark Donica. I mean, he showed some major flaws in his alleged strength of Star Wars, and then, you know, Jared comes up and spins Star Trek, which I do not understand for the life of me why there are hardly any players that have virtually non-existent Star Trek knowledge. I mean, there's only, 12 Star Trek movies? I mean, it's not like there's many deep-cut questions that you can get with the Star Trek questions. It's not like Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings, where you've got to dig deep to get a lot of trivia questions. The Star Trek questions are pretty straightforward, and all you have to do is watch them a couple times and you can pretty much get a majority of the Star Trek questions asked, especially considering that, you know, the champion right now is Jason Inman, who is a Star Trek fanatic. I mean, he would eat them alive if any of them end up getting opponent's choice. He just gives them Star Trek and he's home free. So to me, it shows a complete gap of knowledge with virtually all the new players that have come in. These players have got to start watching some Star Trek, or the current champ is just going to eat them alive, and there's really not much more to say about that.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I've been saying, and I will continue to say. And if any Innergeekdom people ever watch these, besides Taylor, I think Taylor watches, but she knows, you know, if you're in the Innergeekdom and you want to do well, study Star Trek, because there's a reason that Inman does so well. It's because he's well-rounded in the other categories, but he's very good at a category that not very many other competitors are. And that's the same with Robert Meyer Burnett. He does very well at Star Trek. He does very well at comic books. He needs to work on some of his other knowledge. He's maybe not as well-rounded as Jason Inman was during his matches. But the people who are doing very well in niche categories, like Rachel with Lord of the Rings. Like, some of that Lord of the Rings knowledge does get very deep cut, and she's always 100% on Lord of the Rings questions. People who can do well at the Hobbit movies, like, those are not well-loved movies. And so if you're someone who can do well at those questions, then, you know, you can get that head up on the game. Everyone knows their comic books at this point. Everyone can do fairly well at Star Wars at this point. You know, it's the categories that are a little more niche. They need to study up on them, because that's the best way to get a leg up on your competition. Matt, what did you think about this match? And I know that you in particular have a lot to say about the Star Trek questions, given that you are writing a lot of them now.
Yes. That's actually, yeah, well, I was actually, I was at this match as well, and my heart broke. Jared got Star Trek, because I'm a huge Star Trek fanatic. I mean, I'm probably not on the level like a Burnett or an Inman, but like, listen, if Donica was playing me in this match, and I got that round too, besides the beer question, and I've seen Voyage Home like 1,000 times. I
knew that.
What?
I did not know that one.
I knew that.
What? Okay, regardless, I agree with you, Kristen, that I think we've seen time and time again, Star Trek pops up even in round ones. Watch the movies. Just watch the movies. You know, if you're studying, or don't even watch the movies, watch like little recappy things. I don't know, you know. And yeah, for everyone who's starting, because who knows? Maybe I might go really deep cut, because guess what? I got no life, and I just watch Star Trek movies, so I know a lot of stuff. So, Jared, Donica, Taylor, all you Innergeekdom people, study up your Star Trek, because I'm going to give you some heck of a questions. As an overall, the match was fine. I like Jared a lot. Having spoken with him, I'm like, I think if he had a better round two, he definitely could take Innergeekdom. Donica, I just said this too. I know I said to Kristen, but Aaliyah might have been there too from All the Belts. I literally said to her, I went, Inman's going to wipe the floor with Donica. Like, Inman will forget more about Innergeekdom than Donica will learn. I'm sorry. Like, and Donica, I like you. Tom Dagnino, you went with Tom Dagnino. You know, you made a good choice. But here's the thing. Inman is one of the... this is just my opinion. I think Inman is one of the best, like, when it comes to Innergeekdom specifically, he's one of the best well-rounded players. There's a reason why he has the belts. And Donica, in this match, showed me that he has a couple of categories that he's really good in, and some that he just doesn't know. And going up against Inman, you don't want to be like that. I have a feeling... And listen, if Donica can beat Inman, and if he studies and he can do that, then you know what? I'll be on the summit, and I will give all credit to Donica. But right now, Inman's holding that belt, and if Donica plays a match like if in the title match, Donica plays like he played today, Inman's adding a KO or TKO to his record, most likely.
Yeah, and there's no doubt in my mind that Inman will win this one. But the thing is that we know Donica can play a lot better than he played in this match, because his original 5-way match, he did very, very well. I mean, he was right up there with Adam Hlavik, and Adam is very good. But this match really brought to the forefront the gaps that, you know, Mark has in his game, and he's got quite a few of those that he needs to work on before he can go up against Inman. And that's something that is scary for a competitor to know, like, I really have a lot of stuff I need to work on, especially going up against Inman. Inman in Innergeekdom is a very solid player. He doesn't really have bad games, and the bad games he's had, like the games he's lost, like
his first match, that was it. His first match, that was it.
And that first match, like he still played pretty well. Yeah. It's not like he's ever had an Innergeekdom match where he's been really terrible. He takes this category very seriously, and you have to be right up there with them if you want to be competitive. And that's right now the issue with Innergeekdom, I think, as a whole, is there's a few very competitive people, and then a lot of people trying to get there because they know they're good in like one or two categories. You have to be good in all of them, and that's hard to do, but you really have to work on filling in those knowledge gaps, and not everyone can do that, which is, you know, it is what it is. But you know, it creates for a limited league, which is why we have so many 5-ways, which is fine. I like the format, but
can I add something on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's because, of course, the league is very young on that front, and there are a couple of people that they had. For example, Inman has the advantage of having very good knowledge in specific categories that are really broad. Like he knows a lot about DC movies, which is a broad category. He knows a lot about Star Trek, which is also a broad category. So he has to fill in blanks that are a little bit more limited, like the Lord of the Rings questions, which there are 6 movies if you include The Hobbit, right? So you have to, you can watch 6 movies, you can study 6 movies. It's not like you need to study 20 or 25 movies. That's why he has a distinct advantage in that. And there are a lot of people that are actually trying to get there, and that's really good. And they shouldn't be judged too hardly. But that's a problem with the league being young. People that are not in that level get opportunities to reach the higher echelons of the league and compete for titles, which might not be competitive, you know, in the near future. But as the league builds up clout on the Innergeekdom part, I think we're going to see a lot more competitive competitors.
Yeah, just to piggyback. Oh, I'm sorry, Kristen.
No, you're fine.
Okay, just to piggyback off of that. Yeah, like the league is young, and I think that's why we're seeing this season. We've seen 2 Fatal 5-ways already. I think we're probably going to see another, because I think Harloff and Thad and Ellis, I think they're trying to build a stable of Innergeekdom players, and from that, I hope that by the end of the season, we're seeing a lot more one-on-one Innergeekdom matches instead of just Fatal 5-ways. I mean, especially when you have players like Burnett and Kalinowski and Jay, who their records are not the best, but we know they can perform, but there aren't matches lined up for them. I'm hoping that let's have like one more Fatal 5-way, introduce more people, and then let's get the Washingtons, the Burnetts, the Kalinowskis back into this league, who all 3 of those, they can be in the I feel like they could be in the upper echelon of the Innergeekdom if they just get more matches.
Yeah, that's fair too. We've had a lot of new players, and you forget how deep the league really is when you see just a lot of newbies coming in. And I think there are some strong newbies that have come into the competition, and I definitely want to see more from a lot of them. Mm-hmm. And even if their first showing isn't necessarily the best one, it's very rare that someone's first showing is very good. And in the cases of people who have great first showings, Bibiani, sorry, Chris.
Oh,
they don't. It doesn't.
Kristen, what the heck?
No, I love Jiz, and he's gonna do very well this season. But he had a breakout first match, and then after that, his singles was just like.
I'm just imagining Clark watching this. I want Clark to record his reaction so just for the moment that he just breaks his computer.
I just say these things to upset Chris because he made me so sad by cursing all my favorite teams last year. He cursed all my teams so hard they all broke up except one team. So.
Kristen, he cursed all my favorite singles competitors.
I know, he cursed everything. He ruined everything. But
there we go, Clark.
There you go. We are going to move on to what happened at the end of the match. Now,
no.
This was basically you know, completion of the Emma Fyfe wins the manageable storyline, where we finally find out who Clark Wolf will be competing against. And so we had that announcement, and Matt's real happy about it. But it's going to be Clark Wolf versus Mike Kalinowski. I think this is a very smart match on her part, because I think that she knows that Mike won't stand a chance if she gets her strengths. And so that should be an interesting match. But I do want to hear everyone's thoughts about this. Matt, you're excited about this one, right?
Oh, God. Clark, Emma, there's literally 9 other competitors you could have picked from. 9! You went... Okay, so for everyone who didn't watch our... which you really should, our top 10 singles competitors video that we did in January, plug. Mike Kalinowski and Clark Wolf, they're like my favorite competitors besides Riley. So this is, listen, I want them both to go for Sam's belt. I don't want them to play each other to go for Sam's belt, because it's gonna break my heart. I mean, Liz, I guess I can see why Clark would choose Mike, because I think he is someone who, you know, okay, that triple threat match, let's get off of that. I hear all you people on the page and Twitter, stop reminding me of it, okay? One bad game. But I do see why, you know, she sees that she has strengths that Mike doesn't, which, you know, can help her if in round 2 or even if in round 1, you know, if she's able to get those couple points on him. But I also think, like Emma said, Mike Kalinowski is someone who is not a easy competitor, and I think Clark is someone who you know, we kind of saw that with the conversation with Rachel. Like, she wants to feel like she wasn't handed this title match, and so I feel like choosing a competitor like Mike, and this is just my opinion, is it completely biased? Yeah, but you know, I feel like she doesn't think this is a give me victory. And this reaction is gonna break me and go to someone else.
Yeah, let's go to someone else who's not emotionally invested in how this match goes and completely devastated that it's happening. Jeremy, how's it going? Hopefully you're not devastated by this matchup.
Oh boy. Okay. Y'all remember my comments from the summit last week, where I talked about what should happen because it was common sense and logical, and then we saw what happened. This makes no sense. None. Zero. The whole point of a faction is to guarantee your faction gets the title match. The fact they did not makes no sense. That simple. I mean, good for Kalinowski. That's about the only good thing I have to say about where this goes, because I don't get it. I mean, if Clark wins, people are going to think it's cheap because they're going to say, "Oh, she's just picking on, you know, poor little Mike." You know, and if Mike wins, it's the greatest upset of the century. To me, there was 2 players in the top 10. You know, Matt said, you know, picked on the one person didn't want to pick on. Well, there was 2 people that made sense to pick, Rachel and Mark. They were both there. I don't get it. I just don't understand why you risk losing the title match to another faction, another group, another player, etc., etc. I'm hoping it's a good match, but if this blows up in the Fight Club's face, well, they'll have no one to blame but themselves, and there's really not much more that can be said about that. It makes no sense.
Okay, well, apparently Jeremy's also upset about this match. Chris, are you gonna cry about this match as well? Or?
I am completely unbiased on this match. I don't really care about any of those competitors. As far as the selection goes, you know, I think the league would have something to say if they picked 2 people from the same faction. I think that it would have been blocked. I mean, in general, I think that choosing Mike Kalinowski is a good choice. It's a safe choice. He's not an easy competitor, but he's within the realm of the people that Clark is competitive against and she's good against. Now, it's not a gimme victory, which I think would have set the internet on fire if they had chosen like a very easy opponent, especially with all the backlash that we got last week when she was selected as the competitor, which again I don't agree with. But if she had chosen, like, I don't know who is like the number 10 or something, it might have been something someone easier than that, and that would have ticked people off. I think her against Mike is going to be a good match. Again, as far as the 5 Cup goes, I think it might have been an issue selecting both of them, but that might not even be the case. I'm not entirely sure how the selection process goes either way. But it's going to be a great match, and I'm looking forward to it. I don't think that Kalinowski should get a second chance so quickly, but if these are if he was selected, then he was selected. We can not do anything about it.
Yeah, and I don't think they would have barred anyone from being selected within that top 10, or else they would have made that specification, like I think that would have been something they would have mentioned during the selection process. But it is, in my mind, I think Mike was maybe not the best choice, but he was one of the choices. I was just like, they're probably going to go to Mike, and that's cool. Mike's cool. And I think that it's a strategic move based on the fact that, he definitely does not have that knowledge that Clark has in, that horror genre element. And also some of the other things she has strengths in, he's very much not competitive in those strengths. And so if she can avoid his strengths and hit hers, then it could be a very good match for her. Malcolm, what do you think about this matchup between Clark Wolf and Mike Kalinowski?
I mean, it's one of those ones which it makes sense with the reasons that Clark chose Mike, because as Emma said, like, they've never had a match together. It'll be a first time match, and so I mean, it's one of those ones which makes sense for that regards, to have a new matchup we've never seen before. But on the other hand, like, this will be Mike's second number 1 contenders match in a very short space of time, provided whenever this actually happens. I don't actually know when it's happening, but I mean, like, based on his performance in the first one, I don't really know why he should get a second one so soon, from being selected for it. Because I mean, let's put it away, a lot of people complained that Roker was in a lot of title matches and number 1 contenders matches. So I mean, it's one of those ones which goes both ways sort of thing.
Yeah, and I totally forgot that the 3-way match was a contender match. And so he really has had some opportunities recently to get that title shot. So that's an interesting thing to bring up about Mike. And who knows, it could go well for him. But that does wrap up our conversation about this week's matches. We are actually going to throw it over to an interview we did with RB3. He's awesome, so I'm excited that we got to have a chance to talk to RB3 about his match and his unfortunate loss, but we're going to shoot it right over to that interview. Okay, I am here with RB3, and I'm very excited to talk to him, even though we're a little sad that he's coming off of a loss in his return back to the Schmoedown, but it's still great to see him. So how's it going, RB3?
It's going good. Schmoedown match posted yesterday. We obviously film them ahead of time, and as an assistant editor for the program, it's a little hard editing your own losses. So that was a little crazy, but it all worked out. Even though I didn't necessarily win, it was fun that it was a Patreon match, so the Patreon supporters got to see it first. It was also cool that I got to face off against Stacy Howard in the first place. So just having the honor of being there was nice. Making a return to the Schmoedown is nice. I've obviously had a lot of hands behind the scenes as an editor. Also, one of the people who helped with the development of the amp as well. So, it's nice being back in front of the camera too.
So speaking of Stacy, she's a more seasoned competitor. She's had a lot more experience recently coming off the tournament. And given the fact that you haven't played in a long time, did that impact your match at all, having to go up against someone who's had that recent experience?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, she's one of the really talented competitors in this league. I always want to go up against the experienced people, though. I was happy to play Matt Nost, even though he was the formal team champion, and that was my debut match. I'm happy to play him because I want to prove myself, you know what I mean? And even if I'm going toe-to-toe with these people, Stacy Howard was the first time I lost by knockout, but I took Matt Nost to the speed round, to all the way to the final round. Every time I lost as Team Wingers, it was always by a 1 point or 2 point differential, always on the last question. So no matter what, I've proven myself to be able to stand up against the big leagues, shoulder to shoulder. I just haven't been able to pull out a win. Now, that being said, going from the first round to the second round is a bit of a confidence shaker, especially with, some of the Renee's controversy that happened early on. It kind of shakes your confidence because I'm somebody who's very strong in the Pixar category. Pixar was my second round category, and I was very strong in it. I did know The Incredibles was the first PG movie by Pixar. I knew that as a fact. Because I read that and the book Creativity Inc., which by Edward Mitchum, if I'm not mistaken. So I was very familiar with that. But it was again the confidence. I was familiar with the Squishy from Finding Nemo. But again, it was another issue of like pronunciation. I didn't want to, I'm not the best speller, I'm not the best speaker, so I just have to know when to play those lanes, and obviously I was proven correct in the first round. The other question with Zorg, you can even watch the footage. I initially was getting ready to say the answer, but again, it was another issue of like, oh, if I mispronounce it, I'm going to lose out on 2 points total. Let me just get the most place I could hear it and go forward for that way. So it was definitely. The competitors had a lot to do with it. The round one, and obviously Stacy Howard's great, and she totally deserved that win. But it was the rulings threw me off obviously, and the confidence going into the second round was a little shaken. So going into the third round and having like no idea, honestly, like those are movies. Miracle. I've never seen before. The second question was about Office Space. I've only seen Office Space one time before, so I didn't, really know. And Meet Joe Black. This is literally my first time ever hearing about this movie. So it was all like, it was all a convoyance. And salute to Stacy Howard, man. She's great at picking numbers. Like I said, like she, like literally two out of my 3 numbers that I was getting ready to pick, and that was really shaking to me. I was like, damn it, like I didn't have any idea where to go from that. So I just picked 2 random ones, and of course it didn't work out, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it happens, and you don't need to worry about Meet Joe Black. It's not a good movie. So outside of the loss, though, how did it feel coming back in the ring? Like, how did it feel to actually get to be back and competing again?
It felt good. I hadn't, like I said, I've been behind the scenes with a lot of stuff, been helping with the editing. Sometimes I'm there when they're shooting. I was there for, I was there for the amp, with the developing of the amp and helping writing questions, or I guess inputting questions into the system with Chris Skillicky. So I've been definitely in the Schmoedown, in the Schmoedown arena, but just not in front of the camera, just behind it. And I think that's why, they have a lot of faith in me going up against these big competitors, because if I'm there at the Schmoedown matches, I could tell you a lot of these questions just straight up. And for most of those round 1 questions, I was able to just answer them. In fact, this was my highest percentage-wise, highest number of correct answers I've ever had in a Schmoedown match, even though I got knocked out. But again, it was that round 3, and that round 3 really set me back, leading to the knockout. But nevertheless, I guess what was your question again?
Just how to feel to be back.
Oh, how did it feel? Okay, it did. Yeah. No, it was a good feeling. It was definitely a good feeling stepping back into the arena, even though it was a loss. I mean, you know, being under those lights is scary for a lot of people. It's definitely nerve-wracking in the beginning, but it's just a fun time. It's like a competitive sport. It's like going in for a championship basketball match, but you know, this movie trivia. And that's what I really appreciate about a lot of these Schmoedown matches. And the entrance is always fun. I had fun from the entrance. Ace, when it was announced I was going to be doing the match, Ace immediately pitched me on what we should do. And it was kind of funny. He was like, "Yeah, you should definitely use that Kendrick Lamar song, come out like during that beat and whatever." So it works out. It worked out really nice. And got to see Ace again too. I mean, like, Ace hasn't been really involved in the Schmoedown that much. And you know, ever since, you know, the Schmoes No Show kind of took its hiatus, we haven't seen much of him. And you know, I've seen obviously a lot of them every week on the Meaning Up podcast every Tuesday at 10 a.m. But it was just funny. It was nice having him there for the entrance too, because it really was like a dope hype man type thing, and the crowd was really into it. So it felt really nice. It was really good stepping back into the Schmoedown arena.
Yeah, and speaking of Ace being there, I know that he teased maybe a team up. So if you and Ace do create like the meaning of team, you know, who do you guys kind of think you would want to face first?
We're not sure. I mean, I'm not really interested in doing team matches as of right now. Because, you know, 0-3 with Wangers, I'd rather make a name for myself first before like fully going full steam ahead with a team type of situation. That being said, though, I mean, I'm not opposed to seeing some of my formal competitors who beat me before in the team rounds. I'm more than happy to try and take another stab at. I mean, obviously, a lot of those teams have dissolved. 6 Degrees is no longer 6 Degrees. The Mega Powers that was Makuga and Finstock is no longer around. Real Rejects are my guys. They could definitely. I'm more than happy to play them. And their record. Obviously, when the Young Bucks was around, I was their manager too. So. You know, it would be nice to see that matriculate to something. But right now, I'm interested in seeing how this goes, seeing who my next match is going to be, and hopefully I could take another stab at playing somebody big sometime down the road. But if not, I'm more than happy to take deuces at with, you know, Tom Dagnino, Howard Rutnick. I don't know who else got a. If Nick Scarpino's in town again, why not? He's 0-2. I'm more than happy. Yeah, if there's a competitor who's at, you know, my kind of standing right now, I'm more than happy to take him on, because again, I want to prove myself. You know, I think that's definitely, you know, I think I have the potential of showing that. I just have to build my way back up to that.
Yeah, and I agree, because I watch your podcast and I know, like, you guys get real deep into movies and you talk about, you know, the actors and you talk about the directing and everything behind the scenes and with the production of the movie. And I know you guys watch a lot of what you talk about. And so I know you guys know a lot of the stuff that they're asking questions about. And I think that once you can get more comfortable, you're going to do great. And I have a lot of confidence in that. I think that you're already good, and you just need to, you know, get back in it. One of the things that the commentators were saying, though, was, and they mentioned this a couple times, was that your age had a factor in your loss, just because your round 3 questions were movies that are a little more aged and kind of out of that, you know, they're not quite classics, but they're not new movies either. Do you think that had anything to do with your performance in the match?
Yeah, I mean, it had everything to do with it. It was, I mean, listen, you know, I'm at USC Film School. You know, obviously I'm watching a lot of old films, classic movies, Hitchcock, Kubrick, all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, those are the movies we study here. We also look at, you know, more modern fare that's, you know, like some Paul Thomas Anderson, some real arts, you know, some like quality films, you know what I mean? You know, in film school, we're not really watching movies like Kurt Russell's Miracle or, you know, Meet Joe Black. I don't think that's part of our curriculum really. So I don't really, I haven't seen these films. So I mean, again, that's a fair criticism. But I mean, I wish I wish I landed on something more in my speed. Like if, you know, I saw in the category, one of the world categories of modern classics, that I would have killed that. I mean, just looking at the little images on there, they had like The Social Network, I think, There Would Be Blood. That would have been my category. They had a Kubrick category. I would have killed that. But in terms of like those specific films, no. I mean, definitely age plays a factor into it. I wasn't around to be in the movie theaters in like 1980s, 1990s, like a lot of these people were. So then, like, I'm not seeing what they elevate to the cream of the crop, because that's not the cream of the crop that's like generally perceived as being like the big films that you need to see, you know. Like if you were to ask me, I have that, you know, one of those books, 1001 movies you need to watch before you die. If you were to ask me questions out of movies out of that book, I'm probably snap and get most of them. But then, you know, the 80s and 90s, I mean, I think that's an area of the Schmoedown that could be improved, is like incorporating more, not just modern stuff, but like stuff that is beyond the 1980s, 1990s, early 2000s. Like if it was more 70s, 60s, 50s type fare. And obviously they have categories like classics, like Westerns, that spew a little bit older. But I would like to see more of an emphasis put on some of the more highly regarded. I guess, you know, over time, I guess you'll run out of questions just regarding those films, but there's a plethora of movies. Like I said, there's literally books of like 1001 movies that you can watch before you die. If they were to do a foreign film category, I might not do great in that, but like I'll probably do sizably better than something like sports movies. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. But, you know, going back to the whole podcast thing, with me and Ace, I mean, you know, we have a lot of knowledge in just like rewatching a lot of these films. And again, those are more in the terms of like the modern classic categories, we will say. But it's just, I mean, it really does come down to a matter of, I mean, listen, when you watch our show, we talk a lot about actors, actresses, directors, all that kind of stuff. But the type of detail and attention to detail that's required for a lot of these questions are very, very minuscule. Like I said, I saw Office Space once. So I've seen that movie and I've liked that movie. I just had no idea that a stapler was the appliance or whatever, you know, like that's
it's a big deal in the movie.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they make a real big deal about a stapler in the movie.
Okay. So I'd probably have to like rewatch it again. You know, honestly, it was like I answered printer because, you know, the question said appliance. I never thought of a stapler as an appliance. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess that technically counts. Just addressing some of the comments I've been reading. A lot of people, you know, are mentioning the Renee Zellweger thing, the misspelling situation, and of course the argument of Stacy saying it first. Therefore, like I could have just said it the way she said it. I mean, I get the argument. I don't think that's like, I don't know how necessarily fair that is, though. You know what I mean? Like. You said you mentioned before you watched our podcast, The Meaning of. We've mentioned Renee Zellweger multiple times on that show, and I've said her name correctly on it, so you can check the books. Like it's not an opinion, it's not conjecture, it's like a fact. I know how to say Renee Zellweger's name, and then, you know, she misspelled it too, but I didn't notice that on set. And these are all arguments I could have made there if I challenged it. But you know, I didn't want to challenge it. I was trying to save that in case I like really needed it. But it is what it is. I mean, that question wouldn't have swung the match either way. I lost by 2 points. That's only a 1 point question. But I mean, you know, it is what it is. That's just how things play out usually in the Schmoedown matches.
Yeah, and I know, especially after some of those controversial matches with writing things down recently, that they have maybe been trying to be a little more hardcore about the rules. And so I understand it. I mean, there's no actress out there named Renee Zellweger anyway, so, like, it doesn't really matter. But, like, to me, like, I knew what you were trying to spell, and, like, you said in your post-match interviews, you've seen JTE spell things a whole lot worse than what you did. So it's like an iffy thing. All these spelling rulings are always kind of iffy to me. But you know, going off of what you said though, you know, next time you play, are there things that you're going to do differently? Or is there a way that you can try and train better for the third round? Like, the third round is impossible, but it's,
right.
You know, is there something that you are going to do to get yourself to that next level for your next match?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's, especially for something like the third round, there's really no way to prepare for that because you just have no idea what they're going to throw at you. For me, I mean, what I'm gonna work on more as time goes on. I've told Christian this multiple times. I'm trying to work on like the 80s and 90s stuff. You know what I mean? Like, go like, I don't know, like Stars Classic, like just have a marathon of that on or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to figure that out. I mean, in terms of the other rounds, I mean, listen, round one I did pretty good in. And, you know, that was actually one of the tougher round ones. There have been times where I've been in the studio and sat next to, you know, people. You know, if you don't know this, when you're in the Schmoedown, when you're actually in the Schmoedown studio, you can participate. You just can't say anything. So a lot of times we'll pull out phones and just write notes of what answers we think are going to. And there have been multiple times I've been in the studio and, like, have hidden all 8 back to back to back. And round one are obviously easier questions, so that's, you know, that's fair. Round two, again, it's depending on the category. Pixar was a great category. Again, I just wish I had the confidence, wish I didn't go multiple choice for a lot of them because I did know a lot of them. And for round three, I mean, again, there's no way of predicting that. Just randomly picking numbers. But in terms of the training for it, I mean, I'm not sure. There really is... I don't know. I mean, I guess there really is no way besides using the amp, I guess, the Movie Trivia Schmoedown amp, which you get on the ISO app store as of right now. And yeah, it was just really, you know, it really comes down to just doing, just watching more movies. I guess, you know, there's really no way to study for a Schmoedown match, I feel like, besides just like knowing film. So I definitely have to know more film in order to do better at the next match, I guess.
Well, I mean, I'm really looking forward to what you do next, and I hope that your next match goes a little bit more in your favor. But we've had a really great time talking to you, and I just want to thank you for your time. And why don't you let everyone know where they can find you online?
Yes, thanks for having me, Kristen, and Take 3 and everything. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at RB3 Schmoes. The Meaning of podcast every Tuesday, 10 a.m. This week we are going to be talking about Paul Thomas Anderson. We're doing another 2-part series on that. And then you can also follow my YouTube channel. It's just my name, Robert Butler III. I post short films there, sometimes vlogs, sometimes video essays. It just depends on, you know, what I'm feeling, you know, should be posted. Hopefully, I'm working on a lot of things and a lot of projects that should be posted up there soon. So.
Awesome. And yeah, we're excited to see what you're going to do next, and make sure you follow RB3 on all his social media things, because he's awesome and he posts some cool stuff. So, all right, back to everyone at the summit, to the Patreon match. So, all right, so back on track. All right. So thank you, RB3. It was great having that chat with you, and I wish you all the best in whatever the Schmoedown holds for you next. But we do want to talk about the coming week in the Schmoedown. So on April 10th, we have Teen Trek versus World's Finest. I'm looking forward to this match. because I love me some Team Trek. And then on April 13th, it is the day. It is the big day. It is the free-for-all 2. This thing's going to be off the chain. Full disclosure, myself and Matt were there, so we know what happened.
Boo.
So we're not going to take part in the speculation that's about to happen, but we'll be here to leave winks and teasing hints for the rest of the
whatever
video.
I say, just stay
What
right.
the hell?
So we are going to talk about the Team Trek versus World's Finest match, which me and Matt don't actually know the outcome of. And so we're going to just go through this. And personally, I think Team Trek is going to win this match. I just think that them being the veterans has a lot of weight behind it. And I also think that Inman coming off really strong victories in Innergeekdom could serve him well. He also was able to win that 5-way match to make it into the singles tournament. And so he's got a little bit more coming out, just in terms of fantasy, or not fantasy, but trivia. And then Mance is a bit of a wild card. If he can focus, man, he's a killer. So just focus, please, Scott. Focus. I love you, but you gotta focus. Jen, what are your thoughts on this upcoming match, and who do you think is going to win?
Yeah, I'm real excited to see this match. I'm a big fan of Team Trek. They were on my fantasy team last year, and then they didn't have many matches. So, yeah, but I'm really excited to see Scott Mance back in the Schmoedown Mance Man. It's been a long time, I feel like. So I'm excited to see him back. I'm sure he'll have some digs for Roka after the Jane Fonda situation, even though I think they've kind of settled their differences, but still, it's fun to take jabs at Roka when you can. But yeah, so Inman, I agree. He had an excellent year last year in the tournament, and with the Innergeekdom belt, that gives you a certain level of pride going into another match. And with Mance by his side, his co-captain or lieutenant, I think they're going to do a great job. World's Finest had a really good debut. So I think it is going to be a tight match, but I would give the slight edge to Team Trek. Mance Man.
Mance Man. Matt, who do you think is going to win this match between Team Trek and the World's Finest?
Listen, World Finest is a good team. They're a new team. But you know what they don't have? Scott Mance! Oh man, it's been so long since I was able to do that. Listen, Trek is one of my favorite teams. You know why? I love the Schmoedown, I love the storylines where we get, top 10 versus Patriots, and they really hate each other, and I love that. But you know what else I love? I love Trek because they're so happy. When Jason Inman and Scott Mance come out, they're bringing flowers, they're just happy. They're just having fun. I just want to have some fun. And also, we talk about Mance as a wild card if he could be reined in, but Jason Inman has shown time and time again he's the Mance whisperer. He knows how to tame Scott Mance and to keep him from, going too crazy and, letting the opponents get the best of him. I think everything Kristen said, I think Jason Inman coming off what he's been doing in singles and Innergeekdom is just going to help both of them, and I think Trek is going to walk away victorious. And even if they don't, I don't care, because at least Trek is back.
There you go. I agree. I honestly, even if they lose, I'm kind of okay with it just because I want them to play.
Yes.
But I hope they don't lose because I want...
Then they can play more.
They can play more, exactly. Malcolm, are you in the same boat, the Team Trek ship, as it were?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think Team Trek has this, but I mean, I liked World's Finest. I just don't think they have what it takes to take down Team Trek. I mean, and personally, I think with this match being so close to the announcement of Roka reforming the Four Horsemen, I think it's pretty much confirming that we're going to get a Roka appearance inviting Team Trek to join the Four Horsemen. So.
Oh man.
Oh man, we've
Whoa.
been through the Four Horsemen speculation bit last week, Malcolm. You can't bring it back, especially with Chris Alexakos on the panel.
Yeah, I was about to pounce.
I was going to say.
You're more than welcome to pounce if you want, but we are talking about the Team Trek World's Finest match.
Okay.
So if you are going to, give your thoughts about that match first.
And if you work in Four Horsemen, then by all means.
Yeah, if you can transition your way in, then
Correct.
Chris.
Oh, sorry.
That's
I thought that was my cue. Okay.
No,
so,
it's your turn.
yes. So
He was just dreaming about Team Top.
yes. So I was dreaming about who the 4 horsemen are going to be, but let's talk about the match about Trek versus World's Finest. I think in this case, World's Finest is going to win. I'm against the trend that has Team Trek to be even a competent team. I don't think they're more than an average team of the league. Both players have a good amount of knowledge, but they have like very distinct weaknesses in their game. This is, by the way, going to be the first match that Jason Inman gives as a champion, right? This is going to be the first appearance with the belt. Well, I still think that Inman might be amazing in Innergeekdom, but in the general movie trivia, he's a pretty weak player. We saw that against Snyder. The last time I remember that he was his last singles game, right? But so I think that World's Finest.
Roka.
Well, even worse. So
I think you're biased on that one, but
a bit. So I think that the World's Finest has enough firepower to take them on. They had a really good outing in the first game. They did really well on their picture category, which is also a strong point of Team Trek. Well, I think they're a solid team, and between two solid teams, I'm inclined to take the newer team just because of the discussion we had earlier. I think it's a really good way to grow the league if a newer team gets to 2-0 and then it starts building momentum. That's all well and good. Now for the 4 horsemen, which is the important part of the conversation here, it's going to be above the line and team top 10. Remember my words. This is going to be the super team to end all super teams. When that happens, it's going to be glorious. And then we can have like McQueenie. He can go in the Innergeekdom if they want. McQueenie can do anything, so it doesn't matter that much.
I just love how he throws on this Innergeekdom. Like,
if you had seen our interview with Drew McQueenie, you would know that he has no desire to go into Innergeekdom.
So Chris doesn't watch Take 3 videos.
You would also have known last week that was my pick for the 4 horsemen.
Yes,
obviously, top 10 admins are on the same wavelength. So there you go. All right, Jeremy, what are your thoughts about this Team Trek World's Finest match?
I think I speak for everybody. I think I'm rooting for Team Trek because we want to see another veteran team beat the young team, just like we just talked about earlier. But I think I absolutely agree with Malcolm. By the end of that match, it's going to go from this to that. Easy to do. All you got to do is move a couple fingers, and it's simple as that. So easy transition. But above the line, joining the 4 horsemen, didn't Sam Levine just spend the last year going on that whole "fuck you, John Roca" thing?
It's a friendly rivalry. There is love in between there.
They secretly love each other.
Yes, that's for sure.
And if you remember, prior to last year, Mance and Roca also hated each other too. So, at this point, we're right on track to just have everyone love John Roca, and then we'll be all set.
Except the fans, apparently.
I still love John Roca.
If Snyder loves Roca, the world's gonna explode. Okay.
No, that is accurate. You're right. That's accurate. All right, so that was Tuesday's match, and we're moving on to the main event. This is the free-for-all 2. This thing is going to be insane. Full disclosure with me and Matt. We did say this earlier, but we won't be involved in the predictions for this match just because we already know what's going to happen. So what we're going to do is the poster that was made, pretty much everyone in the poster pretty much is going to be in the free-for-all, maybe without a couple people, but that's a surprise as well. But there are only about half of the people that are in the poster, you know, that's half of the competitors. There's 48 freaking people competing in this free-for-all. It's going to be an entire day to watch it, probably. Hopefully not, but it might be. I don't know. It felt like an entire day when we were there, an entire day of awesomeness. But, you know, this thing's just going to be an incredible event. And what we want to do right now is bring in some predictions. We're going to talk about predictions for, you know, who's going to be the John Humphrey of the year, which is the surprise player of the year. We're going to call it the Humphrey Award. And we're also going to talk about who is going to be sitting the longest at the table. And then finally, of course, the prediction, the only one that matters, is who's going to be the winner. So you can go based off the poster, or, you know, if you think that someone might show up that's not on the poster, feel free to add them in too. There's no harm. There's 20 more people who aren't on the poster who could show up. So we're going to actually start out the discussion with Abe, the editor.
Oh my God, you talked to me first?
Yeah, you're so important, Abe. You're the most important person here. We wanted to make sure we got all your thoughts first.
I have this theory about Brian Ward posters for competitions, because he usually has something in his posters that hit it. Like if you look at the Ultimate Schmoedown posters, the people at the edges or that have symmetry usually are in the final or maybe something. So my prediction, it can be R&B or JTE or Brian or Emma. Like if you see the poster, they're on the edges. So I'm gonna believe in the Brian Ward theory, and Emma is gonna.
Okay, guys, what we need now is someone to make a meme. You know, of I forget what t-shirt is, but the guy with the board, except it's Abe, and it's all Brian Ward posters.
It's always sunny in Philadelphia, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So
we need it.
So that's your winner. Who do you think is going to last the longest at the table?
If this person, I think you can see Drew McQueenie. If he's in, who else? I think JT can do a run. Sam Levine, or if this person is competing, I think he can surprise everybody. Ethan Erwin. He's on my fantasy league. He's gonna give me points. He's
selfish.
He's gonna be there like 18 rounds and win, and he's gonna crush it.
You're selfish. And do you think there's going to be any surprises, whether during the tournament or maybe a John Humphrey who takes the whole thing by storm?
I wouldn't be surprised if Andrew Guy shows up. It's been 3 months. Yeah, 3 months since his suspension. So you'll see it there, I guess.
Well, it's always a possibility, but don't get too disappointed if it doesn't happen, Abe. All right, so Malcolm, your 3 predictions are, of course, your winner, the longest at the table, and the free-for-all surprise.
Well, winner, I actually think Bibiani can pull off the win. And before you say anything, Clark isn't here putting it with a gun to my head, so I'm actually saying it's my own. For longest, for most rounds, I think, maybe I'm actually think Ethan Erwin could be the longest most rounds. For surprise competitor, and I know I'm a wrestling fan, so the Royal Rumble sometimes likes to bring in some celebrities as surprise entrants. I wouldn't be surprised if Christian has actually managed to get Bruce Campbell to be a surprise entrant into the free-for-all.
I will never argue against Bruce Campbell, but I may or may not have met Bruce Campbell while I was there.
What?
And I may or may not have been the happiest person alive if what Malcolm is saying is true. So if it is true, and there's just a picture of me with Bruce Campbell in the near future, you'll know why.
Is there a video of you fainting when that happens?
There may or may not be. I've given too much away. So we're going to jump over to Jen Kempe for her predictions about the free-for-all.
Yeah, so my predictions in terms of who I think will stay the longest at the table, I think McWeeny has that on lock. He's proven himself to be the king of the whiteboards, and Free For All is all about the whiteboard. Of course, it's all about who's at the table as well, but I think he can have a really strong run there. In terms of who I think will win, it's really tough because it's all about the draw of when you're actually going to be coming out. But I think in terms of surprises, I wouldn't be too surprised if Dan Murrell makes his great return, and if that happens, that would be a win for me, honestly. I think that he can definitely pull out the win there. But other surprises, I would love to see a Mr. Wiggly make a debut Schmoedown appearance.
Yes,
this would be a nice atmosphere, a welcoming sort of atmosphere to actually have that happen. But I really want to see Dan Murrell come back, and if Dan Murrell comes back, I would love to see him reform the Screen Junkies team with Hal Rudnick, who I assume is going to be there. He's usually pretty good about being on these big events, and I'm always excited to see him. But yeah, I agree with the Bruce Campbell bit. I've been going through my brain of what celebrities have we been seeing sneaking around the Collider Studios, and Tommy Wiseau was there for a little bit, so that would be freaking amazing.
Oh
if that
my
happened.
God!
I don't know if it lines up. It can neither
God.
confirm nor deny. So yeah, I don't know.
I may or may not have met some very cool people while I was out there, and
Did you meet
I'm not
Obama?
gonna say who they
Yeah,
are.
me and Kristen may or may not have met some pretty groovy people, who had a
Yeah,
story.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Bruce Campbell, Tommy Wiseau, if Booker T somehow made it to do his live interviews and then made it to the table. That would be amazing. But I'm hoping in my heart, I'm hoping for a Dan Murrell comeback because it's been too long. And if there's anyone that's gonna upset the Patriots a little bit, I think Dan Murrell could have Snyder and JT shaking in their boots a little bit if he were to come back with the team.
I will never argue against having Dan Murrell come back ever. Jeremy, what were your thoughts, or what are your predictions for the free-for-all?
As far as my surprise, I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm probably going to say everything that is not even going to happen, so that would be just perfect for me. As far as surprise, I'm going to go out on a limb and say Frank Janis showed up and competed. I remember he got asked during his live Q&A a little while back if he was there at the free for all, would he contend? He seemed open to it, so I think if he's there, I think he actually might show up and compete in it. As long as a streak player, I'm going to say Whitney Seibold. If he's there, I think he can potentially have a really good run. Then, of course, he's going to come out 48, so no way that's going to happen. And as far as who I think is going to win, I think I'm going to go out on a major limb here. I think I'm going to go out with somebody who might actually not even be there. But fellow Schmoedown Reactor, he'll be watching it down there in Phoenix. I'm going to go Tim the Tank Franco will win the free-for-all, shock the world, and will, I think, be on his way to become a major player in the Schmoedown.
Well, Tim, you hear that? You got a fan. I would love it if Tim would play some more matches. So this would be his key to domination, I believe. So that's exciting. Chris, you are our final predictor in studio. But who do you think is going to win and be surprising and all that stuff?
So for winning, it's obviously Rock, right? I don't even think that this is like a point of discussion. For the longest, I mean, I think that if Rock, since Rock is going to win, I think if he gets drawn early enough, he can get the longest streak. That might not be necessarily the case. So for the longest streak, I might go with someone like McQueenie, which is always a good pick for that stuff. But for the surprise, I think that Mark Fernandez or Frosty, they might compete, and they might be pretty good at it. During the Collider takeover and the town hall, they even said that they would be interested in competing. I don't know if Frosty is permanently in Los Angeles. Maybe he's in New York. I'm not sure about that. But I think Mark Fernandez will definitely jump on the opportunity, since he's there. He's the owner of the company. Might as well join the the ranks of the free-for-all. Yeah, so I think it's going to be John Rocca, probably John Rocca, but maybe Drew McQueenie, and then Mark Fernandez.
All right. Hey, those are good predictions all around. I cannot express enough how excited I am for everyone to behold this masterpiece in the making. There is so much that happens in it, and I can't wait to be able to actually share that with people. So watch it, and we will discuss it.
It's gonna be great to finally talk.
I know. I will finally be able to take off my mask of silence, but we are going to talk about one additional news item that took place this week. And to give us that news item, we're actually going to take it over to Matt. Matt, what news are we talking about?
So the news item is that we all know about this live event that they just had there in California. Well, they're having another one, and no, it's not in New York. It's not in Chicago. It's not even in Arizona. It's in California again. In June, I believe, if I'm correct, Christian said that we're going to be seeing the Shire Wolves play against Team TBD. Listen, TBD, I think they're new, but they're champions in the making, okay?
Yes.
They're unknowns, but they're possibly champions in the making, is what I'll say about Team TBD. Everyone in the comment section, you're going to be like, Matt's an idiot. How did he get on this? Well, guess what? I attended public school, so that's what happens. But the big news item that dropped is that at this live event, we are going to get a triple threat #1 contenders match for the Star Wars belt between Knapsack, Damon, and Scrimshaw. These are three guys who they've, of course, played. Damon and Scrimshaw played in the Fatal 5-Way that Sam Whitmore won last year. Ken Knapsack, of course, the former Star Wars champion. I'm so excited about this. I think all three of these guys have great knowledge. Any three of these guys could definitely give Sam Whitmore a good challenge. I think a lot of people want Ken Knapsack to win. And listen, I love Ken. I understand why he is in this match. But I love Ken, but I'm kind of hoping, we're talking about this. Let's not have this be a circular thing. Can we not have the Star Wars belt go between two people? So I'm kind of hoping Damon or Scrimshaw wins. But Sam Whitmore is going to win anyway, no matter who wins this. But I'm really excited about this, and the fact that, the first live Schmoedown was a Star Wars match at Celebration. And so to have another one, I think this is great. More Star Wars matches, because I love Star Wars matches. So this live event, it's going to be something awesome, is what I'll say. Back to you, Kristen.
All right, I agree. This thing sounds amazing, and I wish I could go to it, but that is a rough time of my life.
Money?
Money is not an option, or not an obstacle. However, the fact that it is in the middle of June is kind of an issue for me. But we do want to pass it around the table and just get everyone's thoughts about this. So Tim, Jesus, I'm tired. Who's Tim? Jeremy is Tim. Jeremy, what were your thoughts about this live
At least that means
event?
I might win the free for all.
Your middle name starts with a T.
Oh my.
Okay, sorry. Jeremy, what are your thoughts about the live event announcement?
Very much looking forward to it. Shire Wolves at a live event is something that I was vouching for as soon as the first live show concluded. Can't wait to see them fight that Team TBD or whatever the hell Matt said. That's going to be a tough outing for the Shire Wolves. I hope they don't have to sweat that one out. But Shire Wolves, hopefully with an easy victory. And as far as that Star Wars match, you got to root for Ken in a way. I mean, yeah, he's the bad guy, but come on, we got to add more drama to that Whitner Knapsack controversy at the Spectacular. So just seeing them play again would just be beautiful to see.
Yeah, I wish I could be there live for this stupid match, this Star Wars match, because it's going to be something else. Malcolm, what are your thoughts about this live event announcement?
Yeah, I think this the live event, I think it's pretty good. I mean, like the fact we get the Shire Wolves, and with that fact we've got possibly completely different people from the last one, it makes a lot of sense. And I've got a suspicion that because they chose to do it in California again, that's probably the same week they might be recording Collision as well, which might make sense for why they record doing the live that week as well. I don't know, but the Star Wars match will be really interesting because if Knapsack loses, it'll give him another thing to complain about. The reason why he's losing, it's like he can't blame the system. Just go, oh, all the audience are screaming out answers and like they're making me lose my train to 4. It's like it's all their fault.
I personally, I kind of want Ken to win because he's Ken, but then storyline wise, like shit, that's funny. You know who is probably really at odds with this is Chris, who, despite how much he loves Roka, he also really loves Ken. So, what are your thoughts about this live event, Chris?
Look, for the Star Wars match, it's going to be a triumph for Ken. First of all, Ken should not have even lost the belt in the beginning. We all know how the system works against some specific teams and some specific people. I don't want to say anything else here, but Ken is completely on another level from all these people. Like, you know, I've been listening to Force Center for a long time. Joseph Scrimshaw is more of a Force philosopher, not like a Force movie trivia guy. So, you know, Ken is going to easily dispatch both of them, and he's going to move on to face Whitworth and regain the title that he should have never lost. Now, for the TBD match, if Christian Harloff needs to right some wrongs that he have done in the past couple of years, that's his opportunity, and he should give Top 10 the chance to get the Shire Wolves, put them down, take their pelts, and then move ahead to face Above the Line, which they probably will have won the title by that point.
Wow. Those are some thoughts. Top 10, please don't steal the Shire Wolves' belts. Or stealing the Shire Wolves, well, stealing the Patriots' belts. Don't steal anyone's belts. That's just wrong.
Yeah.
That's just wrong. Jen, what are your thoughts about this live event?
The top 10 admin picks the top 10 to be TBD. Big surprise. I can't argue too much with that because honestly, if you saw the first live event, Roka was phenomenal in the live setting, so it's hard to go against that. But for me, I absolutely adored everything that happened in the live event. I was very upset that I couldn't go because I had a work trip. It's in June, so I'm going to try really, really hard to go to this one. So I'm very excited if I could go to this. You get a little bit of the light side and a little bit of the dark, because I absolutely love, if I were two people in the Schmoedown that I identify with the most are Rachel Cushing and Ken Knapsack, which seems a little clashy, but I'm a mess. That's basically it. But yeah, so to see Shire Wolves and support them in live event would be amazing. I think they would be phenomenal no matter who they're facing. And I would absolutely adore to see Ken come out with the Lion's Den and face off against Joseph Scrimshaw, one of his Jedi in training. Basically having them on the table together would be amazing. And Damon did really well as well in the 5-way. He was, I believe it was tied with Scrimshaw at the very end before Whitworth blew everyone away again. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I would definitely say at this point it's hard to tell with Wolves not knowing who they're going to go up against, but I would definitely say Ken pulls out the win in this, and it's going to be glorious. But check the tape. He should have won that first one, so he deserves a second chance. Time ran out. Check the tape.
Well, we won't get into that controversy because I was there, and they never said that if the time ran out in the middle of the question that wouldn't count. So as far as I'm concerned, it was a fair win. But you know, that's besides the point. This live event is something that is already kind of, you know, it's already something that sounds amazing. We don't even know what one of the teams is going to be. The other team could be terrible, and I don't care, because you have Direwolves in one of the spots, and you have a three-way Star Wars match in the other one between, you know, the former champ and two people who very easily could have been the champs this last time. Because say what you want about how much Ken knows or doesn't know, Alex Damon, he knows his stuff, and his whole living is made on a YouTube channel explaining Star Wars, and he studies. Like he's a fan of the Schmoedown. He watches the Schmoedown matches. He studies the Schmoedown matches. Like he studies the players and how they play so that he can better understand how to beat them. Like he is a competitor who is going to show up this match. And then you have, he's also very good at karaoke, so he's not afraid of a live stage. That's a story. But then you have Joseph Scrimshaw, who he's also very good. If you watched him during that five-way match, he was toe-to-toe with both Alex and Sam basically the whole time. And that's not easy to do, go toe-to-toe with those guys. And, you know, he's going to do just fine. Any one of these guys could technically win, and it would not be a surprise at all. But at the end of the day, whoever wins, like, they're going to have their work cut out for them with Sam Witwer, because that guy, like, some of the harder questions in the Schmoedown that people seem to not be able to get are the quotes. And if there's one thing that Sam Witwer knows about Star Wars, it's the freaking quotes. That guy is a machine at quotes. And if you rewatch those matches, like, that's how he got a lot of his victories, was off of quotes, because, and also one of his losses. But he knows his quotes because he probably learned how to do the voices and accents by basically just memorizing all the quotes in the dang movies. But he's something else. He's crazy. And whoever wins they're going to have a tough match to get that belt away from him. So I cannot wait for this live event. I wish I could be there, but I'm so excited that they're going to do more of these. And then maybe by the time, you know, I can actually travel again, they'll have one a little bit closer to me. That would be nice. But that's besides the point.
New York Comic-Con.
Chicago.
New York Comic-Con.
Or New York's not that far. No. Delaware, yeah, for sure. New Zealand, you're welcome. All right, so that's all we got for the summit. We had a lot to talk about today, and you know, it's a longer episode, but everything, you know, that was going on in the Schmoedown this week was just very exciting. So sorry that we talked about it ad nauseum, but you know, we're all just so excited to be talking about the Schmoedown. And, you know, let's kick it off and find out where everyone is located on the interwebs. First, we have Jeremy. Where can people find you on the internet?
You can follow me on Twitter at WWEJTH1, and you can find my own personal JTH Reacts on my YouTube page, JTH. Hopefully by the time this summit is posted, my own personal reaction will get up by then, because my dear crappy internet. But yeah, always looking forward to coming back on here, and always looking forward.
Perfect. And I certainly hope that your reaction's up, because this won't go up till Monday. Chris Alexakos, where can we find you on the internet?
So you can find me on the Top 10 group, which I'm currently fostering with dear Kristen Smith here, and on Twitter at CALEXAKO Live. I'm a huge proponent of the movie Driven Schmoedown, so you can also find me on the Facebook group there.
Perfect. Jen Kempe, where can we all find you?
You can find me, Jen Kempe, at JK Meme Queen on Twitter and Stardust, and on Expedia, trying to figure out my trips for the live Schmoedown event.
Perfect. And sneak me in your luggage or something. Matt Kearns, where can we find you on the internet?
You guys, as always, can find me at Kearns_Matthew on Twitter, MattMovies611 on YouTube. On here on Take 3, I host Second Look. This goes up on Monday, so new episode on Clerks just went up today. I also host Throwback Thursday Trail Reactions. Last week was on Jurassic Park, and this week, at the time of this recording, I have no clue what I'm doing. But it's gonna be an old trailer, I can tell you that. And I'm also, I'm usually doing the fantasy updates, but who knows? Maybe my roommate might be taking over from now on. We'll have to see.
That is certainly going to be interesting for all of us. Malcolm, why don't you give yourself a plug? Or something that doesn't sound so terrible. Sorry. I'm fighting.
Plug yourself because
it's been a long day.
I'm tired and I'm fighting, and he has to go outside. And
Malcolm, just plug your Twitter.
Malcolm, where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter, Stardust, and Letterboxd at Malcor. You can find me on my own personal YouTube channel, Malcolm Smith Media, and I'm just Take 3 stuff.
Hopefully not giving yourself the plug either.
Okay, all right. And our editor Abe, what's going on, Abe? Where can we find you?
You can find me burning stuff on my. You can find me on Twitter today, but I'm at 25.
You can also find us never recording on a Friday night again.
Never again. All right, and as always, you can find me fighting my corgis who have to pee. And also, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Stardust at Smith_K10, the number, not the word. You can also find me posting, hopefully, what's left of the summits after this one burns to the ground. And also on all of our, not all of them, but a lot of our reactions and family game nights with Chris Clark and all the other things we do on the channel. So that's awesome. Make sure you check out our other content if you haven't already. There's a lot of good stuff on the channel. There's a lot of good stuff on all of the channels represented today in our panel. And we hope that you guys all have a good time out there watching the Schmoedown. Until next time, we hope that you take care.
I burned my hand.